Hello everyone, if you're new to my channel, consider liking and subscribing. It will make me feel wonderful if you do that. Thanks. By the way, I also have another Naruto and Luffy fanfiction channel. If you are interested, link is in the description.
The Straw Hat's Red Devil, Sky Island Saga, Number 3, by DeadGirlEtarnal. She's the daughter of red-haired Shanks. She was dropped off to live with Luffy. She met Ace and Sabo, but when Sabo died, it was the last for her, as she vows to take revenge. Years later, she leaves the island and sets on adventures of her own. She soon meets up with her baby brother and travels with him, finding love in more than one place. Adios.
We finally make it to Logia town and stand before one of the gates to enter the city. Woohoo! Woohoo! What a huge town! Luffy exclaims, looking around the buildings. Lots of pirates stock up at this town before heading out to the Grand Line. I inform them as I pull my bag over my shoulder with all my supplies that match my black jumpsuit, short jacket, and boots. You can get pretty much whatever you want here, Nami adds. Alright, I'm gonna need to get some cool stuff for my upcoming great adventure. Usopp comments, and I nod, pointing to the city's southeast on my hand map. The best places are there, but be careful, they're tricky over there, I warn him. Thanks, Dakota, he says, and I nod with a smile. There's lots of good food to check out here. And lots of good women, Sanji gushes, and I shake my head at him. The markets are on the other side of the city by the water, I tell him, not wanting to get closer to him in his dreamy state. There's something I want to buy too. Zoro jumps in, and I look over at him. Oh, and how would you do that? You're totally broke, aren't you? Nami teases him, and I shake my head at her antics, and he looks down at her in annoyance. I need to go meet some old friends, I mutter and feel the others looking at me. Hey, sis, does one of your boyfriends live here? Luffy suddenly asks me, and I look at him. Yeah, but I'll avoid him, I'm not going to be in the good part of town. I tell him, and he smiles, but I see the hint in his eyes. He wants to hurt the guy the first once dated. I'm not telling you who it is. Okay, I'm gonna check out the execution platform. I want to see it, the place where the Pirate King died, and beat up Dakota's old boyfriend. Luffy shouts as he runs off, leaving the rest of us behind. Hey, we haven't decided on a place to meet back up yet, Usopp shouts after him. Luffy, you don't even know who he is, I shout after him at the same time. Man, he's hopeless, Usopp complains as we watch Luffy disappear into the crowds. We'll meet back here at the end of the day, see ya then, I tell them as I walk off into one of the alleyways leading to the wrong part of town to see some old friends. I walk through the narrow alleyways of old buildings with broken windows or doors. I smirk as I pass two men who look at me hungrily, but I ignore them as I feel them follow me. One Piece. Logia Town Arc 3rd POV. At the Marine base in Logia Town, inside the communications room, the printer pushes out a wanted poster. Then a Marine soldier jumps to his feed, then another pushes out, and he runs out of the room. The Marine soldier bursts into the captain's smoke-filled office. Captain Smoker, there's an alert, the soldier exclaims and sees his superior officer looking at him through the smoke. We've received notification from Marine headquarters, that Monkey D. Luffy and his band of pirates are headed towards Logia Town. He's the East Blue Pirate with a reward on his head for 30 million. 30 million, huh? Want me to congratulate him or something? The Marine captain asks in a snarky tone. He is the one who defeated Don Krieg and the fishman Arlong, the soldier retorts eagerly. Shut the hell up, he snaps as the object falls apart. Damn, you're yelling, you broke it. Forgive me. The soldier replies sincerely. Well, forget it. I have my own way of doing things. I work at my own pace. You know? The Marine captain asks his subordinate. Why yes, sir. He agrees as his captain opens the window, and the smoke from his two cigars flows out of the room. So, you were saying? He asks him. Sir, it seems there are a band of pirates headed for the city today. Sir, he informs them with urgency in his voice. What are you getting all worked up for? Since I've been at this post, has there ever been able to get out of this city once they've entered? He asks as he puts his jacket on, covering up his bare chest. Well, no, he agrees hesitantly. I'll take care of it at my own pace. He replies when another Marine soldier enters the room through the open door. Yes, the Marine soldier mutters under his breath. Reporting, sir, pirates have been sighted at the harbor. Please come to confirm the situation, the other marine soldier exclaims. It's got to be the Luffy pirates, sir. There weren't any others mentioned in the bulletin, the first marine soldier remarks as he holds the wanted posters in hand. 30 million, huh? That's something I'd like to see, the marine captain thinks out loud. Huh? The marine officers question their superior? Just thinking out loud. Forget it, he replies as he walks out of the room, and the second soldier runs after him. Don't you need these? The first marine soldier asks, but it falls on deaf ears, and he shakes his head. Oh, no, I didn't tell him about the Red Devil. One Piece. Log Town arc. Outside a rundown building, figures in cloaks step inside. Two stand outside, waiting for the rest and looking out for danger. One Piece. Log Town arc. Inside the rundown building, it's a dark gothic room with people sitting around. They look at the figures in cloaks and walk inside. One of the characters walks up to the bar, pulls out a small brown sack of coins and pushes them over to the barman. A young-looking man with mess raven hair wearing glasses and white turtleneck jumper and blue blazer. I'm putting a bounty on the head of Monkey D. Luffy to be given to me alive. The voice of Buggy orders, and the barman takes the sack of coins. Very well, how much is he worth on the front? The barman asks, and he pulls out a book full of wanted posters. He's a runt in a straw hat. Buggy snaps and slams his hand down on the bar, startling everyone inside. They all jump to their feet, raising all types of weapons as the barman slowly looks through the books of bounties and stops at Luffy's. Be careful in here, everyone has an itch to scratch, and I found your boy. We'll get him for you. Tommy agrees, places the book back under the bar, and pulls out a golden playing card. He slides it over to Buggy and smirks. Keep that on you, and have a good day. Why thank you, Buggy says, and the group of figures in cloaks walk back out, leaving a tense atmosphere that breaks as the barman laughs and the others join in. One Piece. Log Town arc. Outside, one of the figures stops Buggy and pulls him over to them as they look around the alleyway. Boss, what is this place? Kaboji asks him in a whisper. It's called the Golden Campus, the place all assassins go to get their jobs. Buggy informs them, and they straighten up in shock and look around carefully. Let's get out of here. One Piece. Log Town arc. Dakota's Pav. I walk away from the two unconscious men who felt they had the right to touch me, and I walk towards a rundown building I've spent some time in and hold my breath as I open the large dark green door and step inside. One Piece. Log Town arc. The inside has stayed the same. Dark blue walls, dusty-looking chairs, and a large mirror over the unlit fireplace. I walk to the bar where Tommy works, cleaning glasses. I pull out my deck of red cards and two golden playing cards with the names of two past jobs. He takes the two cards and looks them over. Anything new while I'm in town? I ask him, and he nods as he gives me my money and another golden playing card. I turn it onto the back to see my baby brother's name written, and my eyes glow red. I hope this is a joke, I say through clenched teeth, and Tommy looks up at me. What's got you all twisted? He asks me, and I grab his blazer, pulling him over the counter towards me. That's my baby brother you want to kill, and I'll tell you now, if anyone goes after him, I promise you, they'll all be coming back here in pieces. I threaten him, and he nods, taking the card back and ripping it up. Who placed the job? I ask him, and he shakes his head. I don't know, they didn't leave a name. Tommy tells me, and I can sense it's the truth, so I let him go, making him fall back onto the floor. I walk across couches as other assassins sit. Poor little Red Devil, she can't even kill a boy worth 30 million? A smug voice from behind me taunts me. And I turn around to see a man with long raven hair tied in a low ponytail and wearing a white shirt and black loose tie, sitting in the chair. I walk over to him, my shoes echoing around the silent room. Got something to say to my face? I ask him, and he looks up at me as I stand over him. I just wonder why the great Red Devil won't kill that puny little straw hat boy, he asks, and I smirk down at him before thrusting my hand into his chest. I grip his heart, and he gasps in pain and shock. The reason is my own, but I'll tell you, he's my baby brother, and anyone who goes near him will end up like you. I threaten him and pull my hand out of his chest with his heart in my hand. I drop it to the floor and walk out of the room with my money, and I smirk, taking a towel from the side as I leave. One Piece. Logue Town arc. I close the door behind me as I wipe the blood off my hand with the towel and throw it away before heading towards my favorite pub where I met him, but I shake the thoughts of him out and focus on my surroundings. One Piece. Logue Town arc. I walk down the steps to my favorite pub every time I visit this place and hear the old man's voice as I get closer. But Gold Roger fought and killed him. The old man exclaims, and I shake my head, having heard this story too many times. Gold Roger did? I hear a voice I know all too well, and I walk down the final steps and lean against the doorway to see Luffy sitting on one of the bar stools while the old man sits at the table with a glass. It's a famous tale. He was a big, rough guy, with a big sword. The battle was decided pretty quickly. He weaves the story and points to the skull on the table. This gash is what killed him. Luffy leans forward in his seat. But he was really something. His last words were, "Roger. No one can touch you. I praise you as the eternal pirate." The old man and I say simultaneously, and I walk further into the room. "Awesome. Cool." Luffy exclaims in awe of his hero, and I shake my head. Still telling the same old stories, I see, old man. I joke and sit down next to Luffy. "Dakota, what you doing here?" Luffy asks me, turning to face me as I sit down. "To get a decent drink," I reply, letting the old man continue his story as Luffy clenches his hands in anticipation. Of course. King of the Eric Pirates, the famous gunner Silver, all were very dangerous men. Yet before Roger, they were like scared little babies. He rambles on, and I see Luffy shaking with excitement. "Wanna hear more?" "Yeah," Luffy exclaims. "Nowadays youngsters don't usually take an interest in this stuff," the old man comments. "I don't care. Just tell me more," Luffy lightly snaps, and I smack him for his rudeness. Pesky kid. Gold Roger, back then, no, still today, he's the only pirate who truly didn't fear the dangers of the Grand Line. Because you see, the area known as the Grand Line is a place where ships disappear and are never seen again. Navigation is said to be impossible. Because people are so scared of it, they seldom come close to that cursed ocean. Saying that he cleared out all the booze in the bar and set off the next morning, as though there was nothing to fear. Later on, when I heard he had conquered the Grand Line, I was so surprised, I even forgot my age for a bit. But now, everyone has passed on. Roger was executed at the gallows here in town 20 years ago. And from that day, everyone's been going around with the audacity to call themselves pirates. They even call this, the Great Pirate Age. But it's all just a bunch of rubbish. Cowards. Less and less people are daring to sail the Grand Line. And so, that is the reason this place will be closed down. The old man finishes his story, and I look around the old bar and smile at all the memories, good and bad. "I'm going to the Grand Line," Luffy announces with a happy tone. "Huh?" he questions, looking up at the giddy Luffy sitting in his seat. "He was cool, huh? Gold Roger. Pirates should try to be like him. That's why I went out to sea to go to the Grand Line and find One Piece. I'm gonna be the Pirate King," Luffy exclaims, and the old man looks at him in shock. "That's a crazy thing to say. How could you say that, here in this place?" he asks with a laugh. "What? But I'm just telling the truth," Luffy replies, and I know that's the truth. "Kid, after having a customer like you, I feel like closing the shop a little later," he announces, and I smile. This place has too many memories to close down. "Don't do that for me," Luffy tells him as he walks around the counter. "It's decided. There's nothing you can do to change my mind. It's been a long time since I had a customer. Drinks on the house," he says as he gets out 3 glasses. He doesn't drink, I tell the old man, and he laughs. "Is that so? Then how about this?" He offers them 2 glasses of milk and passes me a glass of rum, my second favorite. Cheers to him. To the eternal Pirate King. He raises his glass to Luffy, who spins to face the old man. To the eternal Pirate King, Luffy cheers, and we clink our glasses together in cheers, and I hear footsteps growing closer. "I think it's time for us to leave, thanks, old man, keep the change," I tell him as I place a few berries on his counter and escort Luffy out the back entrance on the main street. One Piece. Logue Town arc. I walk alongside Luffy finally on Main Street, with Luffy looking around eagerly. This is Main Street. Wonder if Gold Roger walked along this street. Luffy wonders aloud. He lived here once, Luffy, of course, he did. I tell him and push him forward, letting out a laugh. One Piece. Logue Town Arc 3rd POV. Inside the old pub Gold Roger, the old man continues to rummage around his bottles, and the Marine captain sits on the stool when a Marine soldier walks inside with a pile of wanted posters in hand. "Hey, this is the new wanted listing. Post this somewhere visible," the soldier announces and finally takes notice of the room. Seeing his Marine captain looking at him over his shoulder, startled, he drops 2 pieces onto the floor. "See Captain Smoker, sir." "Excuse me." Smoker takes notice of the pieces of paper on the floor. He gets up from his seat and walks over, picking them up. He takes a good look at them. "That's Straw Hat, he's Monkey D. Luffy," Smoker growls, moves the poster to the side, and sees Dakota's bounty with the new photo. "Dakota?" he whispers with an almost lost look in his eyes. "That's right, sir, she's been spotted with the Straw Hat, sir," the soldier informs him. He clenches the posters up and runs. One Piece. Logue Town Arc Dakota's POV. I stand next to Luffy as he looks at the execution platform, and I feel the sudden dread sink into my skin but shrug it off and walk around, hoping Luffy doesn't get into trouble when I hear clunking coming from the platform and turn to see him climbing it. Everyone around me turns to face the idiot as he climbs up the platform's frame. He slips up and almost falls but catches himself. "Hey!" a gruff familiar voice shouts, and I look at the person with a shiver before hiding within the crowd. "Hey, kid. What is it? I'm kinda busy right now," Luffy retorts, and I sneak away, walking out of the area. "Smoker?" I hear Luffy repeat and let out a yell. I know he's looking for me, but I jump away, knowing he can handle himself for now, or maybe I'm being a little cowardly. One Piece. Logue Town Arc. I walk down the streets as I need more weapons and pick up some old ones, and I know some of the best places to buy them and start heading inside one of the shops, looking around and picking up a fighting bow. I want to buy katanas. I hear a familiar voice. I look over to see the same green head of hair I see every day and walk over. Well, welcome. Please take your time and look around. We've been in business for 200 years. You know, the shopkeeper greedily greets him, and ends on the counter with a handful of money. I've got 100,000. Sell me 2 katanas. Zoro tells him with a firm tone. What? 2 katanas for 100,000? The shopkeeper asks and sits down in his chair in defeat. 50,000 will only get you a crappy sword. Well, whatever you have is fine. I don't really have much money right now, Zoro tells him, and I see the shopkeeper's eyes shift to his remaining sword on his hip, and he begins to stutter. Oi, th the katana. CC, can I see if for ASS second? What's got you all nervous? I ask the shopkeeper as I walk toward the counter. Zoro turns around to face me. Dakota, what are you doing here? He asks me, and I place 3 daggers, a fighting staff and a pistol. Buying some weapons, I say teasingly, and he hands over his sword to the old man. Weird old guy, Zoro mutters as he passes over his sword. The old man looks at the blade with wide eyes in shock. Wow, what a beat-up old katana. But I'll give you a little something for it. I'll give you 200,000. Then you would have 300,000, and could buy 3 decent 100,000 katanas. The shopkeeper tells him eagerly. Huh? What are you talking about? Zoro asks him. Okay, I'll give you 250,000. No, 300,000, 500,000. He continues to raise the price for Zoro's favorite sword. It doesn't matter how much you offer for that katana, he tells the shopkeeper. Alright, you've got me, 650,000. The owner exclaims in frustration. I got it, you businessman. I'll buy it for 800,000, he begs, and I shake my head at him and hear footsteps come running towards the counter. Good day. A female greets the shopkeeper and walks to the counter between Zoro and me. I've come to pick up my shigure. Is he ready? She asks and looks over at Zoro with joy. I clench my fist at her reaction and move over to the other side of Zoro. Oh, I'm so glad. You're okay. Earlier, someone broke into the Marine base. And then I noticed you were gone, so I was worried about you. But I'm so glad you're okay. But since you were safe, that means you rejected another person's charity and ran out on honest work. Your money. Take it back. The woman says and places some money in Zoro's haramaki as he stands there with his arms folded and a scowl. I refuse to accept money from the kind of man who would do such a thing. She takes out a pair of glasses. Look, I already bought new glasses too. I look at Zoro as he glares at the woman, and I have to say I feel somewhat jealous of her, but whatever. Wow, this katana, could it be the Wado Ichimonji? She takes it from the shopkeeper's hands, examining it. It is the Wado Ichimonji, isn't it? What a beautiful suguha. This is definitely one of the legendary 21 Owazamono. She gets out a little booklet of all the types of swords and flips through the pages. Look at this. This is a sword that is worth more than 20 million. But, why would a person like you have such a famous sword? She asks him, and the shopkeeper shakes with rage. You told him everything, you're ruining my business, he shouts at her. Ruining your business? She repeats. I'm so sorry, did I say something bad? You came here for your shigur, right? The shopkeeper asks her and pulls out a sword from under the counter. Here, it's been sharpened. Now take it and get out. He throws it at her. She tries to catch it but stumbles around and falls into the swords hanging on the wall. I sigh at her clumsiness. Why did you go that way? What is wrong with you? I'm sorry, she whispers as she clutches her head. That ditzy girl saved you. This sword is actually one of the famous swords. Something an amateur like you doesn't deserve to carry. He says, and I clench my teeth together, not wanting to point out who he really is as we have a marine present. The 50,000 katana are over there in those bins. Go pick 2 of them out and get out of my store, I cough, and he turns to me. What can I do for you? I left 2 chakrams to be sharpened here a year ago but was unable till now to collect them, and I want these. I tell him and push the 3 other weapons. He looks under his counter and pulls out my chakram. I've never seen blades like those before. The woman comments as she stands. I hope not, they were my mother's before they were mine and come from her home island at the beginning of the Grand Line. I reply and walk over to Zoro as he rummages around the bins of swords. Good view, I comment, looking at his bent over. He looks over his shoulder with a startled expression as I smirk at him. Knock it off, Koda. He warns me, and I shrug my shoulders. I didn't realize this was your woman. The woman announces, and we both look at her, startled. No, we're not together, I tell her, and she smiles as if she knows something we don't. You really like swords, don't you? Since you're carrying 3 of them. The woman comments as she stands beside me. It almost sounds like that one bounty hunter, I tease him. A bounty hunter, eh? Zoro teases back as he continues to look. He's very famous. His name is Roranoa. She adds in but doesn't realize my teasing tone. I hear the name a lot, Zoro replies. Yes, he has a reputation throughout East Blue as a great swordsman. But he's an evil man. Using a sword as a tool to acquire money is unforgivable. Why is it that this is an age where evil is so strong? The great swordsmen of the world are all pirates or bounty hunters. All the great swords of the world are in their hands. You see? The swords are crying. She says and holds her sword in her embrace, and this seems to put a smirk on Zoro's face. Well, different people have different circumstances, don't they? People's occupations are determined by the needs of the age. Zoro replies, and I agree with him on that point. I swear with my shigur, I will be a swordsman and improve my skills, and then I'm going to travel the world and free the swords from the hands of the legendary 12 Saito Owazamono. The 21 Owazamono. The 50 Ryo Owazamono. I'll risk my life for it, she declares her desire. You gonna take this katana too? Wado Ichimonji, you called it? He asks her, sliding his blade at her. Oh, I didn't mean that I want to have the swords. I just meant that I don't want them in the hands of evil people. She retorts, and I see Zoro grip the handle of one of the swords before pulling it out. That katana, perhaps. She pulls out her little book, flips through the pages again, and stops. Yes, that's it. Sandai Kidetsu. It's definitely Sandai Kidetsu. Its predecessor, the Nadai Kidetsu, was one of the Owazamono. And the Shodai Kidetsu was one of the Seijo Owazamono. She informs us, and I look at the blade as Zoro pulls the sheath away, and I feel something strange from the katana. Do you really want to sell this katana for only 50,000? That's amazing. It's one of the legendary works of swordcraft. You should get it. Its worth should be 1 million, that's a great deal. No way. I won't sell it, the shopkeeper exclaims, seeming to fight the struggle within himself. I thought so. That sword for 50,000, I thought it seemed strange, she begins to argue. No, it's not that, he tries to say as Zoro examines the sword. It's cursed. Zoro and I say at the same time and share a look. You knew? The shopkeeper asks. No, I feel it. We reply at the same time, looking down at the blade. Starting with the Shodai Kitetsu, they are all excellent katana. But they are all cursed. The swordsmen who have used the Kitetsu over the years, all of them came to tragic fates, mysterious deaths. You won't find a single swordsman in the world nowadays who will use a Kitetsu because everyone who used the sword is dead. I wanted to get rid of the damn thing, because of its curse. The shopkeeper spins the tale. I'm sorry. I had no idea it was such a terrible thing. I shouldn't have intruded. She cries, bowing to Zoro. I shake my head as he raises the blade towards the ceiling, looking up at it with a smirk. I like it. He announces. Or Yohat to you and you die, then won't it be like I killed you? The shopkeeper exclaims and gets hit across the face by a big woman. You're the one being stupid. Just sell it, she snaps at him, and I shake my head at the couple. Honey. He pleads with her. How about this? My luck, and this thing's curse. Let's see which one is stronger. Zoro announces and flips the sword up into the air. The others all cry out in protest, but I know Zoro is meant to have this sword. I can feel it. The blade flips up towards the ceiling and then down towards Zoro's outstretched arm. It misses his arm by millimeters. I hold my breath for a second before it hits the floor and sinks almost to the hilt. Zoro looks up with a big grin on his face. I'll take it. He announces, causing the other two to collapse onto the floor, and he picks up the cursed sword while I walk over to the counter, collecting my new weapons and paying. Oi, pick out one more out for me, will you? Yes, she replies, fixing her glasses. Wait. The shopkeeper yells, runs to the back room, and comes back moments later carrying a case covered with a purple cloth and settles it clumsily onto the counter. He pulls the fabric away to reveal a katana clad in a black sheath. The sheath, a black lacquered long inlay. The blade an unrevealed edge with a small T, one of the 50 Ryo Wazamono. The Yuboshiri. This may not be a big store, but it's the best katana I have. He announces, showing the blade. I can't buy it, Zoro reminds him. I told you, didn't I? I don't have the money. No, forget the money. And I don't want any money for that Kitetsu either. I'm sorry for trying to cheat you before. It's been a long time since I last saw a true swordsman. They say, a katana chooses its master. I'll pray for your good fortune. The shopkeeper says. Zoro takes the swords, and we walk out without the woman from the shop. We walk along the street. I place my new weapons into my bag and almost trip. Zoro catches me, and I feel my cheeks grow hot. Thanks, I whisper, looking ahead as we continue to walk. Zoro and I sit down on some stairs near Main Street as he examines his new katanas. And I pull a book from my bag. Cursed blade. Interesting. He mutters to himself, and he stares at the blade when suddenly Luffy pops up, startling us. Hey, that's a cool looking katana. Luffy exclaims, looking at the sword. What the hell, don't startle me like that. Zoro snaps at him, and I put my book away. What are you doing here, Zoro, Dakota? Luffy asks us. Same goes for you, I ask him as Zoro removes his sword. Me? Well, I'm lost. Luffy states, seeming almost proud of himself. Why are you proud about that? Zoro asks him in shock at our captain's response. Hey, do you know where the gallows are? Luffy asks, but before I can answer, shouts from behind him gain our attention. We look over to see a group of men surrounding Daddy Masterson. What's this? Luffy asks us, but we watch as the men shout at the bounty hunter before shots sound out, and 4 of the men fall onto the ground leaving one standing behind him. The lone one standing stumbles back onto his ass as Daddy walks towards him and pulls out a cigarette from the kid's inner jacket pocket. As the kid shakes in fear as Daddy crushes his cigarette. Go home and ask your mama to bake you some cake, boy. Daddy taunts him and throws the crushed cigarette on him, and the kid runs off screaming in fear. I smirk, he hasn't changed. Wow, cool, that old man, Luffy exclaims too loudly. That man's probably, Zoro says. That's right, Daddy the father. I finish as we watch him walk away. I'm hungry. Luffy complains and clutches at his stomach. Come on. I'll take you to a good restaurant near here. I tell him and stand with the boys following. We walk off towards one of the restaurants. One Piece. Logue Town Arc. I sit at one of the tables in the middle of the restaurant. It is an excellent place, and I pick up the menu, but I know what Luffy will want. The waiter walks over to our table, seeming happy. Can I get you any drinks? He asks, and I put the menu down. We'll get a jug of water, a bottle of wine and a bottle of rum, I tell him. He writes it down on his notepad. Also, we'll have 2 of everything on the menu, please, I tell him. He looks up from the pad with shock. They're hungry, I remark, and he nods before walking away. The food soon arrives, filling the table with our drinks. I take the rum from them while Luffy has water and Zoro has the wine. I dig into the food, scrapping some onto a plate in front of me while Luffy stuffs everything into his mouth. Soon enough, he leans back in his chair, having all finished our food, his stomach 3, maybe 4 times as big with a look of satisfaction. Man, I'm stuffed. I haven't had anything since I got into Logia Town. I was getting pretty hungry. Luffy states, and I shake my head as I drink my rum. Actually, same here. I was starving, but I didn't have any money left on me. Good thing I bumped into you too. Zoro comments, filling his glass with more wine. If you mean for money, I don't have any, Luffy announces as Zoro gulps down his drink and slams his glass on the table angrily. What? He snaps at our captain. Don't you have any? Luffy asks him. Why the hell would I have any? He asks him, and I know he left the money behind for the 2 katanas, and Luffy lets out a joyous laugh slamming his hand on the table. You have a point. Luffy laughs. So, how are we gonna pay for this? Zoro asks as if I'm invisible or assuming I have no money, as I stay quiet. Maybe they'll let us off. Luffy reasons when a sack of coins drops onto the rim of his hat. He looks up, and a gold coin drops out. He catches it in his hands, looking at the money with glee. Woohoo! Lucky! He exclaims and grabs the sack of coins before turning to the people behind him. What, you're treating us? He asks them. How nice of you. We get up from our seats, and I leave a few bills under my glass as Luffy walks over to the person in a cloak and returns the sack of coins. Thank you. He flips the cash in the air before catching it and walking back over, placing the coin on the table, and Zoro walks over to the figure. Thanks for the food. Zoro thanks him and walks off, and we leave the restaurant. One Piece. Logue Town Arc. We walk off around the corner, and I hear shouting but shrug it off. As we walk around when a gust of wind pulls Luffy's hat from his head. He clutches onto the top of his head as he watches the straw hat float away. Hat! Luffy cries out as he runs after, and Zoro walks beside me as we walk behind. Ah, wait, hat! He shouts as he runs after turning the corner. Zoro and I turn the same corner but lose sight of him, and we continue down the street, and I look to my side with a sigh. Zoro has somehow gotten lost again. I look around me as people become startled and frightened, and then I hear them murmuring among themselves. I strain my hearing when someone shouts. Straw Hat Luffy's to be executed by Buggy, the clown? I look around with wide eyes before closing them to calm myself down. Demonic shift. I whisper and disappear from the street in a glimmering blue light. One Piece. Logue Town Arc 3rd POV. At the marine base, Captain Smoker walks towards some stairs and takes a few steps before stopping and looking over his shoulder. What? You mean? He asks. See correct. The soldier answers. In addition to Straw Hat Luffy and Red Devil Dakota, Buggy the Clown and Iron Club Alvida are also here. They're East Blue pirate captains with Devil's Fruit powers. Right here under my nose, Smoker growls, brazen fools. What are your orders, Captain Smoker? The soldier asks him. Order the 1st unit down to the harbor. Have the 2nd unit surround the plaza from the streets. Have the rest stand by at a distance from the plaza. That's all. Smoker orders, and the soldier stands to attention. Yes, sir, he replies. Give an order to the 1st unit. Find and destroy the pirates' ships. Don't let even one of those animals off this island. Especially Dakota LaRue. Smoker growls as storm clouds roll over the city. One Piece. Logue Town Arc Dakota's POV. I make it to the central plaza where the execution platform stands. I look over to see Luffy at the top in the stocks, with Buggy looming over him and his men and some woman below. I sigh in frustration and hear footsteps coming towards the plaza. Marines. I shift again to the top of the building, away from sight. I listen to the Marines' plan and watch Luffy and Buggy on the platform. Captain Smoker, please come look at this. Something strange is happening. A soldier announces, and I stiffen in place and jump away, not wanting to be too close anymore and get a better look at my baby brother and Buggy. I move over to the next building, still out of sight and closer to the platform, and can hear Buggy laughing his usual laugh. Pirate, Monkey D. Luffy, I sentence you, for the crime of laughing at my misfortune and pissing me off, to a flashy death. Buggy shouts with a laugh, and his men cheer. Flash it up, men. His men obey and start shooting their guns, cheering and dancing around. Ah, this is the first time I've ever seen an execution, Luffy states with a grin, and I shake my head at his naivety. It's your execution, Buggy tells him, and Luffy for a second point to himself. Wah? You're joking, Luffy screams at Buggy with wide eyes. You're the one who's joking, and now, Buggy shouts back. Let me go. Let me out. Someone help. Help me. Luffy shouts out to the crowd. I almost go for him but stop myself short as Buggy shouts. Our main event, he shouts. The flashy execution shall commence. No, Luffy screams in panic but stops when Buggy puts his foot on his head. I'm sorry, Luffy says with no emotion. I won't do it again. Please spare me. I'm not saving you. You ninny, Buggy shouts at him. Any last words then? We've got quite a crowd here. Well, looks like you're speechless. You're about to die, after all. Buggy taunts him, and the wind picks up flow through my hair. I am the man WHO will become the Pirate King, Luffy screams, and I smile as his words echo around the plaza. And everyone stands there in dead silence as they all stare at him and his declaration. For a long moment, everyone remains quiet when people seem to process what he said. The Pirate King, he said. In this town of all places, what a bold statement. The citizens murmur among themselves in the crowd. It's about time to end this, don't you think, shitty rubber kid? Buggy says ever so calmly, even for him, as Luffy struggles to free himself. This execution is cancelled, Zoro and Sanji shout together. I look at them standing at the plaza entrance. Zoro, Sanji, Luffy exclaims in glee, and I let out a sigh of relief. You really know how to make a ruckus. Aren't you taking this joke a bit far, Luffy? Zoro asks him as the boys get ready for a fight. If it's time for the sideshow, I guess I'll debut as well. It looks like we just have to get past these shitty pirates. Sanji comments, and I move slowly across the top of the roof. Pirate Hunter, Z Zoro. Someone in the crowd shouts, and they part ways, shrieking in terror, and I smirk, thinking how they'll react when I come into play. Sanji, Zoro. Luffy shouts over to them. Here at last, Zoro. Pity you're a tad too late. Buggy yells and raises his cutlass in the air. The execution platform, Zoro yells as the boys break out into a run straight ahead. Destroy it, Sanji yells back as they run through the crowd heading for the platform. If you would so please, my dears, the woman calls out, and more pirates head for the boys. And so we shall. They shout back, Lady Alvida. They run straight for the boys, and Zoro cuts them down, along with Sanji kicking them aside. Out of the way, Zoro growls and I see one of the pirates going for him, and I shift off of the roof down into the plaza. Before I touch down, I get out my green and black blade knife from its thigh holster before skidding on my knees towards the back of the pirate. I slice across the back of his knee. He buckles under the pain as I get to my feet, slightly crouching down and take his foot further away from me in my hand. I pull his foot towards me, and he loses balance and falls on his back in a cry of pain. I stand up, fully aware of all the stares. Dakota! Luffy shouts, and I look up, staring at him, then shift my eyes up at Buggy, who quivers at the hardened glare I get from my dad. LaRue! Buggy screams in fright, but before I can shift as the brave minion swings again at me, I bend back out of the way, landing on my shoulders and hands. I push myself back up onto my feet. I stand still as more pirates surround me. I flip my knife and arch my back around, cutting deep into pirates. They all cry out in pain as they fall to the ground and Buggy lets out a laugh. Try all you want. You can't stop me now. This is the end of your captain. You goddamn bastard. Sanji growls as we fight our way through the pirates towards the platform, and Buggy lets out a laugh. Zoro. Luffy shouts and says swordsman stops. Sanji, Dakota, Usopp, Nami. He calls out our names, and we stop looking up as Buggy brings down his cutlass, and Luffy looks up with a big-ass grin. Sorry, I'm dead. Zoro begins to shout. Don't say that, bastard. Sanji shouts, and I feel an electrical current strike through the air before a bolt of lightning strikes down the execution platform, shocking everyone as the light blinds everyone and the platform cracks under the current. Buggy is engulfed in blue fire while a piece of the platform's metal structure falls to the ground, and the rest of the rig catches fire. Droplets of rain fall from the sky before it becomes a torrential downpour, and the platform, still on fire, falls on its side, and I look up at the sky in shock when I see Luffy's hat floating down. I stand in my spot as everyone else is still in shock and look down as the hat settles on the ground. Luffy picks his hat up and puts it back on. I sigh of relief to see him safe. Hey, I'm alive. I'm okay. Luffy states with a cheery tone as everyone around him, including myself, stares in shock. Hey, you believe in God? Sanji asks, and Luffy walks over to us. Phew, what a relief. I thought I was a goner there. Luffy comments, and I run toward him, wrapping my arms around him, and he accepts the hug. This isn't the time to ask about that. We're blowing this town. Looks like the danger's not over yet. Zoro states, and I nod in agreement knowing the Marines will soon move in on us. As I think this, I hear a shout before Marines rush in from every exit encircling us. Why them? Sanji huffs as the Marines begin fighting with the other pirates. Pirates come towards Luffy, and he jumps out of the way as the Marines knock them away. Awesome. What a huge fight. Cool. Super cool. Luffy cheers as he jumps out of the way of another falling pirate, and Zoro grabs the back of his shirt, startling him. Luffy, he snaps, and Luffy looks behind him, hearing his voice. Oh, Zoro, he gulps. Quit standing there watching, we're leaving, Zoro snaps. If we don't get back to the ship in time, we won't be able to leave the island. Then we can't get to the Grand Line, Sanji points out. What? We better go then. Luffy agrees, and we break off into a run. The Straw Hat crew is retreating. A Marine soldier shouts to the others as we run away. Stop them. After them. As they scream, a group of them run towards us, the boys knock them out of the way, and I punch them out of my way along with them. One Piece. Logetown Arc 3rd Pav. At the Marine hideout in one of the buildings facing into the plaza with Marines and pirates fighting, Captain Smoker stands, staring into space when one of his men speaks. Captain. About capturing those pirates. Hey, you. You ever seen a pirate that smiles at the execution platform? Smoker asks him. And never. Even the greatest of bluffers turned pale with fear just before they died, he replies. He was smiling. That man with the straw hat. 22 years ago, at his own execution, the pirate king Gold Roger smiled the very same way. Smoker comments, thinking back to then. Captain, he mutters under his breath. Where's Straw Hat and Red Devil? Smoker inquires roughly, looking over his shoulder. They're currently retreating towards the harbor, he reports. What of the first unit? They should have destroyed the ships by now. Smoker asks as he walks past him. They reported that, due to the sudden rain, their gunpowder was ruined. They're returning now for a fresh supply. He informs him looking down at the floor in fear. They're what? Smoker growls, stopping mid-step. As backup, we have the shoreline guard ready at your disposal. He assures him, turning around. Captain Smoker, if they pull out to sea, they'll be able to reach the Grand Line, the swordswoman remarks, turning around also. The wind's blowing west. They've got a perfect tailwind. Can all this be coincidence? It's like heaven itself is keeping that man alive. Smoker grumbles to himself, looking up at the sky. Or is it the devil? He wonders as he thinks of Dakota and her reappearance back into his life after a year. I, Smoker the White Hunter, swear now as a captain of the Marine headquarters. That man and woman shall not leave this island. One Piece. Logetown Arc Dakota's Pav. We run down the street heading for the harbor where the Going Merry sails. Hopefully with Nami and Usopp on board. We have to get out of here now. I yell at the boys. Let's get to the Grand Line. Luffy cheers as we run full speed towards the harbor. What kind of storm is this? Zoro questions. If we don't hurry, we won't be able to get off this island. Nami-san wasn't kidding when she said to get back to the ship as soon as possible, Sanji comments. Run, 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 Luffy cheers as he runs in front of us. Which way is the damn harbor? Zoro snaps. It's raining so hard. I can't tell which direction. Luffy replies. Marine soldiers shout from behind us. Damn, they're persistent. I snap, looking behind my shoulder at them. Wanna stop and fight him? No, there's no time, Sanji replies and looks ahead. Who is that lady? He gushes, and I look to see the woman from the weapons store standing in front of us, blocking our path. So you're Roronoa Zoro, a pirate. You lied to me, she yells, and Sanji stops his chivalry from getting the better of him. What the hell did you do to her? Sanji demands, and we come to a stop in front of her. You never asked my name, that's all. I never lied to you. Zoro tells her as he walks a little towards her before stopping. A scoundrel like you wielding such a magnificent katana. Unforgivable. Your katana, the Wado Ichimonji, shall be confiscated, she shouts, and I shake my head in disbelief. Just try it. Zoro replies, and she lets out a battle cry going to strike, but he blocks it with his Ichimonji, and they stare at each other for a moment before Zoro pulls back, and they strike at each other again but block. You bastard! How dare you attack a woman? Sanji scolds Zoro. Stay out of this, please, she shouts at him. This is a match between Roronoa and myself. Leave us alone. You heard her, Zoro adds. Go on ahead, he tells us, not facing away, letting his guard down. Let's go. Luffy agrees and runs past the two swordsmen, and I join him, dragging Sanji behind. Zoro, if you hurt her, you're a dead man, Sanji warns him as I drag him away. Sergeant Major Tashigi, a marine soldier, shouts at the woman, and I hear more strikes between the blades and another. One Piece. Logue Town arc. I keep dragging Sanji behind me so he won't run back to stop Zoro from fighting with the marine woman. There's the end of the street. The harbor's just over there, Luffy shouts over the heavy downpour, and I look through to see someone in front of us. Hey, who's that up ahead? Sanji asks, and I get a better look to see Smoker standing with his bike blocking our exit. Here at last, Straw Hat Luffy. Red Devil Dakota. Smoker says, and we stop in our tracks. I told you if you can't beat me, you will never get to the Grand Line. Oh yay, I forgot about that, Luffy comments with a grin, but I move my hand into my back pockets to get my knuckle dusters. You enjoy playing dumb, Smoker growls. Hey, Luffy, Sanji mutters to him. Sanji, Dakota. Go on ahead. Luffy orders us, but I know Smoker won't let me pass. I'll be right there. I wouldn't bet on that. This is the end for you, Smoker growls as he steps forward. Go! Luffy shouts, and Sanji runs, but I stay where I am. Dakota, go! He calls, but I shake my head. No way, you won't beat him, Luffy, I tell him, and he looks at me with such determination, and I nod in agreement before breaking out in a run. Smoker darts to the side about to hit me when I use armament hockey around my hands and knuckle dusters hitting him away from me. I run away, leaving my baby brother behind, and I feel the guilt hit me more as I can feel their stare both on my retreating form. One Piece. Logue Town arc. I catch up with Sanji as we reach the harbor with marines firing at the Going Merry. Sailing out. Nami-san, Sanji calls out to her as we run towards the ship. Dakota, Sanji-kun, she calls back as we run across the coast. Dakota, Sanji. Usopp calls out. Nami-san, I'm back, Sanji shouts over to her. What about Luffy and Zoro? She asks us. Those two louts can take care of themselves, Sanji replies as the marine soldiers run after us. Dakota, Sanji-kun. Nami shouts a warning. Behind you, Usopp warns us, and I turn around, knocking them away along with Sanji, but more are coming for us. Shit, they just keep coming, Sanji curses as he looks around us. I hear a splash from behind us, and some of the marines go down. I look over to see Usopp in the water using his slingshot. Sanji and I on the land kick and punch more marines out of our way, with more coming our way. Usopp, Dakota, Sanji-kun. Nami calls out with worry as more marines run towards us when suddenly a strong wind current pushes us off the ground, sending us away along with everything else. One Piece. Logue Town arc. I end up with the boys still close to the harbor under some rubble from the strong winds that have stopped. I shake off the debris, feeling the bruises forming along my arms and stomach. I get up with the boys and look around, wondering what kind of wind that could have been, when I hear Nami shout out to us. Luffy. I look along with the others to see that the Going Merry is sailing away with Nami still on board. Luffy. Nami. Luffy calls back. We have to do something fast, or she'll drift out too far. Sanji warns him and runs off. I got it. Luffy shouts and runs in the other direction. We watch him run. Gum gum. Luffy runs past some stairs, catches his hands on them, and pulls himself back using his momentum. Oh, no, Usopp cries out, and I look with wide eyes. He wouldn't, Sanji cries out alongside. Ah, shit. Zoro curses as Luffy begins to push forward. Rocket. Luffy shouts as he comes sailing towards us. We try to outrun him but can't as he knocks into us, and we go flying. One Piece. Logue Town arc. We fly towards the ship's sails in a bundle of body parts, falling onto the deck groaning in pain from Luffy's daft idea. Guys. Nami beams at the sight of us. We get up, entangling ourselves from one another and looking out to the choppy sea around us. It feels like the ship's gonna turn over, Luffy yells as we look, and I notice a light. Look at that light. Nami yells over the raging storm. The island's lighthouse, Usopp questions as he hugs the mast. That's our guiding light. The light that points to the entrance of the Grand Line. I explain, feeling nostalgia for seeing it again. The Grand Line is over there? Luffy says in awe as he looks at the lighthouse. What now? Nami asks our captain. But are you really gonna go in a storm like this? Usopp asks us, and we all look back at him in agreement. Alright. Let's have a little launching ceremony to mark the importance of our voyage, Sanji suggests. Yeah, great, Luffy agrees. Let's do it, Nami agrees, also. To find all blue, Sanji declares and puts his foot atop the barrel with the rest of us surrounding it. To become the Pirate King, Luffy declares the obvious as he, too, puts his foot on top of the barrel with a big grin. To be the greatest swordsman, Zoro declares his with a smirk and puts his foot on the barrel. To draw a map of the world, Nami declares, putting her foot on the barrel. I am to become a brave warrior of the sea. Usopp shouts his declaration and places his foot on the barrel. The others all look at me. To avenge my mother's death, I declare and place my foot between Zoro and Usopp's feet. Let's go to the Grand Line, Luffy shouts, and we raise all our legs into the air. We all shout in agreement and smash our feet on the top of the barrel, smashing it to pieces from the force. It's been 2 days since we escaped Logia Town with hopefully everything we need for the Grand Line, and the storm has for now blown over, but once we get closer to Reverse Mountain, it'll start up again. Everyone is outside now, enjoying the sun at the front of the ship, apart from Usopp. He's in the crow's nest on the lookout while I'm in the cabin at the top in the kitchen, along with the helm as I steer the ship, though I can still hear the others. I pull at my sleeve of the navy blue floral short jumpsuit as it slips again, and I move some of my scarlet hair from my shoulder, falling down my back, still half up and down with a braid, keeping most of it out of my face. I keep thinking of our time in Logia Town and glad that we made it out of there, but I know Smoker, he won't let us get away. He'll catch up with us sooner or later, but for now, I'm glad we're heading for the Grand Line. Nami, aren't we at the Grand Line yet? Luffy questions from his new favorite seat on the figurehead at the bow of the ship while Sanji stands in my sight, and I can see Zoro snoozing again on the railing and Nami looking at the map she stole from Buggy before Usopp. Sanji and I joined the crew. We just left Logia Town 2 days ago. It's gonna take a few more days to get there. Just be patient. Nami tells him, and I laugh under my breath at Luffy's antics as he gives her a big grin. Okay. Luffy agrees with a laugh. What a beautiful day. It's like that storm never happened. Sanji comments, but he's looking at Nami, and I shake my head as I tilt the steering to the left slightly to keep on course. Hey, I can see a big flock of birds off to starboard, Usopp shouts out. I move away and walk over to the window facing over the left side of the ship and see the flock of birds. Birds? Luffy questions, looking up towards Usopp. Yeah, and in the water, I can sort of make out a pretty big, I can't tell. What do you think? Maybe a fish? Usopp calls down. Akuma Akuma no human demon form. Eyes from hell. I whisper and close my eyes, then open them as they shift into a yellow tone. I focus on the flock of birds and see a small rowboat half in the sea. One Piece. Warship Island Arc. What on a rowboat? I ask as I walk out of the cabin. Well, it does kinda look like a big fish, Usopp replies as he tries to get a closer look, and I shrug my shoulders in response. I close my eyes, deactivating the cat's eyes. I hear that when sea birds flock over the ocean, it's usually because there's a school of fish around. Sanji comments, and I walk down the stairs and towards the bow. Fish! Luffy exclaims with a big grin as I climb up the stairs, as he moves over to the side, crouching. Luffy, catch us some lunch, Sanji tells him, and I walk over, standing next to the sleeping Zoro. Gotcha. Luffy agrees, standing on the railing and swinging his arm back. Gum gum. Net catch, his arm stretches far out before he turns it towards the sinking boat and flock of birds. Woo! Nice stretching. Usopp cheers. What a handy guy. Sanji comments with a smile as Luffy's arm stretches out towards the rowboat, grabbing the object in it and his arm coming back fast. Got it. Luffy confirms, and it gets closer, looking less like a fish to me. It's a huge one. Nice Luffy. Nami praises him, but it's coming in closer. Hold on, Sanji warns him as his arm, still slightly stretched, comes around. What about when it comes back? He begins to say, and we dive out of the way. But Zoro is unlucky as the tiny human body smacks into him with force, sending him flying. I get to my feet, watching as Zoro cries out in shock as he sails through the air before splashing down in the ocean. I giggle before grabbing some rope from the side, making it into a lasso, and swinging it around my head. Ah, sorry, Zoro. Luffy gives an offhand apology as I let the lasso go, and it lands around Zoro. You damn moron. Sanji curses him, and I reel Zoro in from around his waist up the ship's side. One day, I am going to kill him, Zoro vows, and I laugh as I pull him over the railing and look at the little girl Luffy saved. Hey, look, this ain't a fish at all, Sanji says as Usopp, Nami, and he crowd around her unconscious body. It's a little girl, Nami states the obvious observation, and Luffy walks over, seeming curious. A mermaid? Where's her webbing? Luffy asks, and I shake my head and give Zoro a towel to dry himself. Gimme a break. Usopp snaps at him. How the heck does she look like a mermaid? But why would this girl be out on that tiny rowboat? Nami questions, and I walk over to see the poor unconscious little girl. She looks dehydrated and soaking, meaning she is in the storm. It doesn't matter, for now, we should get her dry and comfortable. I tell them and push past them and gently pick the girl up. She doesn't weigh much, and I walk back down the stairs. It's about lunchtime, isn't it? Sanji. I'm feeling a little peckish. I tell him and look behind over my shoulder, fluttering my eyes as I say this. He gives me the proper reaction as he looks at me with a lovesick look in his eyes. Of course, my love, Sanji exclaims and dashes off down the other stairs across the deck to the cabin with the kitchen. You have to show me how you do that. Nami comments, and I look at her doing the same movements, causing a blush to creep onto her cheeks. Sure, I've got time tonight, I reply and walk down the rest of the steps onto the deck. But Luffy beats me to the top of the next set of steps as he runs over, smelling Sanji's cooking. One Piece. Warship Island Arc. Inside the cabin, Sanji stands over the stove as I gently place the girl onto the makeshift bed and pull out a blanket to cover her up. Hellfire. Comfort flame, I whisper under my breath, feeling my hands warm up and spark into life. The dark blue surrounds my hands as I move them over the girl's body to dry her clothes. The others all walk in behind me and sit down, awaiting Sanji's food, and I double check if she's okay and move over to sit between Luffy and Nami. Seem like a natural with little kids, Usopp comments, looking over at the kid. I mean, I am the oldest here, and I had to look over my baby brothers, I tell them, but they don't seem to catch the last part, and I look to my left at Luffy as he grins at me. You were always looking after me, he replies and laughs. Well, you were always getting into trouble, I laugh, remember how you got that scar? I look at him, and he looks as if he's remembering. You were so upset my dad wouldn't take you seriously and stabbed yourself. Then cried as Makino fixed you up. I laugh, and the others all join in, but Luffy as he sulks. Come on, Luffy. Remember when we bet Yasop that he couldn't hit that tree about a mile away, and we jumped him as he made the shot? I ask him, and he looks at me before laughing, and Usopp leans in as I mention his dad. Yeah, he got so angry with you, refused to talk to you for about a day, but you just said that you would hold your breath if he didn't stop. You went blue in the face. Luffy laughs, and I join in. Never worked on Ben. I pout and laugh but stop as I get up, walking over to the girl and feeling her forehead. It's hot. I walk over to the sink, take a fresh towel, soak it with lukewarm water and place it on her forehead. I wonder why she was out there during the storm, I comment as I sit down. What makes you think she was? Zoro asks as he looks at me. She's soaking wet, and the rowboat she was in was sinking, I tell him, looking over my shoulder at the unconscious girl as she lies there still. I'll change the press, Usopp tells me and gets up from his seat across from us, walking over. He takes the old towel off and walks over to the sink, replacing it before he can. The girl sits right up, smacking Usopp's head. Ouch! The girl cries out, touching her head in pain. So you're awake, and even more lively than I expected. Nami comments, and the girl looks over at us. You hurt anywhere? I ask her and stand up, walking to be hungry? I'm whipping up some soup now, Sanji tells her, and she looks up at the ceiling in wonder, sussing out where she is. Lucky, she cheers, and I giggle. She looks over at me, blushing at herself. Were you in some shipwreck or something? You were really in trouble out there. What's your name? Nami asks her, and the girl looks at her as I help Usopp sit up. When you ask someone's name, you're supposed to say your own first. She replies, and I smile at her cheeky behavior. Okay, my name is Nami. The guy making the soup in the kitchen is Sanji. She says and points over to him as he greets her. The guy with the mean face and Haramaki is Zoro. Shut up, he growls from his spot, and I giggle to myself. And the guy seeming unconscious over there is Usopp, and the lady helping him out is Dakota. Nami does the introductions, and I wave at the girl, who smiles back at me. I'm Luffy, the captain of this here pirate ship. Luffy introduces himself too openly and puts the poor girl in shock. Pirates, she exclaims with her mouth wide open. I get up, smacking Luffy on the back of the head for his stupidity. We're heading to the Grand Line, Luffy exclaims, not realizing what he's saying. What's wrong? Nami asks the poor girl. She ain't moving, Luffy comments as they stare at her. What are you gonna do with that kid? Zoro asks our captain. Well, now that you mention it, what should we do? Luffy ponders but seems to give up. I'll think about it tomorrow. Sanji serves up the food in an extra bowl for the girl, take it over to her, but she doesn't take a sip of the soup. I sigh and sit across from Nami, watching the kid. Sanji sits down next to me, meaning I'm between him and Zoro, and I eat, making sure Luffy doesn't take any of my food, and Usopp eagerly joins us at the table. Who's going on watch tonight? I did last night. I bring it up, and Zoro looks away as if he hasn't had all the naps he needs, but I know he had the night before me. I say we take a rotation, it'll be easier, and we kind of do anyway though Luffy has avoided doing it for the last 2 weeks, I comment, and he pouts. It was me last night, before that it was Zoro, Usopp and Nami. Either Luffy or Sanji should do it tonight. I'll do it tonight. I can keep an eye on the kitchen. Sanji volunteers, and we all agree. That means it's Luffy tomorrow night, I explain, and we continue to eat, and still, the kid won't take a bite. One Piece. Warship Island arc. I change into my pajamas as Nami finishes off her charts and take the braid out of my hair, letting it fall in waves around my face. I tug down the navy blue nightdress when we hear a crash from across the deck. I look at Nami, and she looks back at me. Luffy. We say together and walk out of our room along with Zoro and Usopp from their room. One Piece. Warship Island arc. We all walk over to the cabin across the deck and look inside to see both Luffy and the girl sitting at the table enjoying some of Sanji's food with him standing over them. The girl drinks right from the bowl hungrily and puts it down. Oh, it's delicious, she gushes. Of course it is, I personally picked Sanji as our chef. Luffy boasts a little. I've never had something this delicious, she says. So she's finally come around. Nami comments, and the three look at us all at the door. Nami-san. Dakota, my love, as always. Sanji greets us with a lovesick look. And a blush creeps up his cheeks like Usopp and Zoro as I'm in my revealing nightgown. Luffy, are you eating again? Nami asks the obvious, and I walk further into the room and sit next to the girl, who looks up at me with a blush of embarrassment. But I didn't have enough at lunch, Luffy tries to argue. You had 2 whole pots full, I argue back. Did I? Luffy questions, scratching at his head, feigning forgetfulness. You got scared when you heard we were pirates, didn't you? I ask her. She looks at me as Nami and the others walk inside. Well, she tries to explain. Well, I guess that's just the natural reaction nowadays. Nami comments, and she looks ahead looking as if she feels guilty. You won't sell me off? She asks us. You thought we would? Usopp asks her in shock, but it isn't uncommon among some pirates. Everyone must have seemed pretty scary, eh? Zoro asks, and Usopp pulls at his cheek, irritating Zoro. With this face, you think you're one to talk? What are you hitting me for? Usopp asks as they hit each other, and we all watch their squabble. Would you two cut it out? Nami asks them as Luffy laughs, and the little girl giggles a little. There's more if you would like, little lady, Sanji asks her, moving a little closer to Luffy won't overhear. At the very least, this isn't the kind of pirate ship you thought it was. Relax. I tell her, and she looks at me with a bright smile. More, please, she exclaims, raising her bowl. Right away, madam. Sanji agrees and walks over to the stove. Me too. Luffy joins in. Do it yourself, bastard, Sanji curses at Luffy. Meanie, Luffy sulks, but Sanji gives in, placing more food in front of them, and I get up from my seat, walking over to the fighting Usopp and Zoro. I pull them apart. Knock it off, you two. I scold them and walk back over, sitting next to the little girl. Soon enough, the little girl seems sleepy and falls onto my side. I gently pick her up and place her back on the makeshift bed, pulling the blanket over her before turning the light out, and everyone walks out, and we head to minus Sanji as he's still on watch. One Piece. Warship Island arc morning follows soon, and we all awake ready to set sail. Luffy brings up the anchor by himself this time, with Zoro placing it on the railing safely as Sanji and Usopp unfold the sails again while Nami and I get dressed. I button up the last of them on the side of my white long summer dress when the ship seems to shake. What? Nami exclaims as she stands, looking over at me in shock, trying to put her shirt on. I walk outside with Nami. The girl is standing outside the kitchen door, seeming rather happy with black clouds of smoke billowing out from behind her. I don't like the look of this, I mutter, and we walk to the kitchen. One Piece. Warship Island arc. We all sit at the table inside. I sit between Nami and Zoro. In front of us is a charred mass of something. We look at it wary and nervous, while Sanji looks at us as we all know how he feels about wasting food and the girl grinning happily. Eehee, you made it all by yourself? Nami asks her sheepishly. It has a rather unique appearance, Usopp comments, not wanting to offend the small girl. Time to eat, Luffy exclaims happily, not bothered, and I knew why some of the food when we were younger was questionable. On top of saving me, you're even feeding me, so, from now on, I'll do anything I can to help, she tells us with a grin. That's great to hear, Nami comments, thank you. Are you sure this is edible? Zoro asks. Getting a closer look, I glare his way and stomp on his foot. He yells out in pain. I grab my plate and tilt the contents into his wide-open mouth. Quit being such a baby and eat it, I snap at him as I push his mouth closed. But you really think it's okay to eat? Usopp questions, looking at the mass on his plate. What you talking about? It's great. Luffy states as he chews on the food, but I hold my breath. There you have it, Sanji says as he leans over the table. I'm sure it only looks bad. He takes a fork full of the mass along with Nami, and I wait. You sure about this? Usopp asks and puts it in his mouth, and they all turn red and purple in the face, and I giggle, looking next to me at Zoro as he turns blue, and they all yelp, and I get them all a glass of water. I place them on the table, they gulp it down hastily. Was it really that terrible? The girl asks us and tries a piece for herself. Her face, too, turns red and purple from the heat, too spicy. She yells. What happened? Did I use too much seasoning? I hand her a glass de well, Everyone makes that mistake. Just make sure to watch for it next time. He tells her, and I pick her up, moving Luffy over. She clings to me as I sit beside him. Hey, this girl put her heart and soul into that food, don't leave a crumb. He tells us, and both Usopp and Zoro try to protest. Shut up. You'll hurt her feelings. This girl, come to think of it, what is your name anyway? APIs. My name is APIs. She introduces herself with a smile and looks up at me as I keep her in my lap. APIs Chan's feelings are at stake. I'll beat the hell out of anyone who leaves a scrap of food. Sanji warns us, and I take my plate from across the table and take a bite. It reminds me of my dad's cooking after my mother died. I'll make you a little something later, Nami-san, Dakota, my love, he whispers. Thanks. Nami smiles with relief. I'm sorry, cooking isn't really what I'm best at, but if there's anything at all I can help with, APIs apologizes, hanging her head. Oh, don't worry about it. It's enough if you're enjoying yourself. I assure her, circling my arms around her and hugging her. She leans back into my body. If it's anything to do with food, you can leave it to me. There's a bunch of other stuff you can help with. Sanji tells her, and she nods, making a sound of agreement. You sure? I love this stuff? Luffy asks, chewing more of API's food. You would, Usopp replies, looking at our captain skeptically. You'll get used to it. Why, no. Just try and eat some, Luffy says, and I shake my head, but everyone eats small bites, but we finish it off and continue sitting in the kitchen as Sanji does the washing up. Now that I think of it, APIs. Why were you out on the ocean in that rowboat? I ask her as she sits on my lap, holding onto my arm securely. I was running away from a marine ship, APIs confesses, hanging her head. A marine ship? Luffy echoes. At night, during the storm 3 days ago. She says, and I look up at Nami with a know-it-all smirk. She shakes her head. You were out in the storm in that tiny rowboat? You've been through a lot, huh? Nami asks her with sympathy. Now tell us what you were there for. Zoro asks her. She looks up, making a sound of confusion. The fact that you had to run away means you weren't riding on that battleship as a guest, right? And the Marines don't waste their time on just anybody. Well, I mean, APIs tries to explain, hanging her head. What, so you're a criminal? Luffy asks her with no tact. Of course not, APIs snaps. How could someone like me have done anything wrong? I didn't do anything, but I can't really tell you the reason. What's up with that? Usopp asks in curiosity and annoyance. Just leave her alone. She must have her reasons. If she doesn't want to say, you shouldn't ask. Sanji argues, and I squeeze APIs lightly in my arms. I guess you're right. I agree. Looking down at her with a smile, she looks up, smiling. But would you at least tell us where you're from? Sure. I'm from Warship Island. APIs answers. Happily, I had heard of the island but never been. Warship Island? I echo, looking down at her. You know it? Usopp asks me and turns to Nami. Nope, let me check, Nami says and gets out her map. Sort of, never been, never needed to, I reply offhandedly. Why do they call it Warship Island? Luffy asks her. They call it that because the silhouette of the island looks just like a battleship, APIs explains. Hey, cool, Luffy exclaims in glee. Ah, here it is, Nami exclaims in joy as she points to a small island near the calm belt. It's right next to the Grand Line, Usopp points out. Right, now we're somewhere over here, so we're not that far away, Nami says, pointing to the ocean's middle. What do you want to do? Want to go home to Warship Island? We were planning on going straight into the Grand Line but, I ask her, and she looks down at her hands in her lap. Me? You went through the trouble of saving me, and I know it will be a burden but, I want to go home to my island. I'm sorry, that sounds selfish. If you let me get on any ship, we meet along the way. I'll manage somehow. APIs tells us, and I stroke her hair, feeling the guilt seeping through her. Honestly, you really are trouble. There's no way a pirate ship can go around approaching other ships. Nami argues, seeming stuck up. That's true, APIs agrees, hanging her head again. But ya know, the island's not that far out of our way. And it's not like we have to start our journey right away. Guess we have no choice. I tell her, and she looks up at me with a huge smile. I'm good to go. I'm fine either way. Nami agrees. What do you think, Captain? Hey, it's cool with me. Luffy agrees with a big grin. We'll get to the Grand Line soon enough. Usopp agrees, also. So, ya say the island looks like a battleship? Luffy asks her. And there you have it. Sanji comments. Really? You'll really take me back to Warship Island? APIs asks excitedly and jumps out of my lap, standing at the table's edge. Yup, Luffy answers her. Great, thank you, Luffy. APIs cheers as she jumps up and down on the stop, waving her arms around. Yay, yay, I'm so happy. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, thank you so much. To thank you, I'll make breakfast every day. Oh, please don't, we tell her, and I pick her up. She hugs me happily. Why not? Luffy asks, and I sigh as APIs bounces on my lap. I hug her back as she beams with happiness. We should get moving, Nami says, and we all get up, with Usopp back to the crow's nest. One Piece. Warship Island arc. I walk outside with Nami. When she stops looking around, I look at her curiously. Oi! There's some ships off the aft bow. Oh my god. That's a marine ship. Usopp announces suddenly, and we all go on alert. The Marines. Nami shrieks. And we're not talking about one or two here, Usopp calls out. I dash to the ship's side to see at least half a dozen within view. You're right. But what is a fleet that size doing here? I question as Nami and I look at the vessels not far from us. What's going on? What's happening? Luffy asks as he pops up from behind us. I bet they've come for mine and Dakota's head. Even so, why that many? Nami asks, and I must say that may be enough for just one of his but two heavyweights? They just know about how tough I am to beat. I'm just too strong. I mean, Dakota's super strong even without her abilities. Luffy points out, but he seems too carefree. You're too careless. Nami snaps at our captain. What's wrong? Sanji asks as I look around to see the fearful look on API's face. Those ships are from the 8th Division. Those are the Marines I ran away from. Oh no, API's panics. And I walk over to her and sit down on the ground, allowing my dress to flow around me as I place API's on my lap, trying to comfort her. She settles slightly, and I stroke her hair, soothing her when I hear the sounds of cannon fire. Ah! They've started shooting, Usopp shouts, and 3 cannons come crashing down around the ship. I hold API's tightly as the ship shakes, and everyone braces themselves as the vessel settles. Attention pirate vessel. Stop your ship immediately. You've had your warning shots. The next round will not miss. A marine shouts through the comms at us, and I shake my head, shifting API's in my lap, keeping her covered. Like hell, we're gonna stop. Usopp snaps as he hangs from the rig by the foot and holds onto the side. What do we do, Luffy? If you're gonna fight them, do it now, Zoro tells him. Yeah, let's fight. Luffy agrees, not even thinking about it. Hey, hold it. Why do you guys always do this? How do you plan to take on that whole fleet? Usopp interjects, sharing his panic. API's, you should get inside, I tell her, worried about her getting hurt in the crossfire. We'll raid them, Zoro says, not even caring. What the hell will raiding them do? Usopp yells, and I let API's off my lap, but she doesn't move and looks over my shoulder. It'll do something, neither of them really thinking it through. What? Usopp yells. It's not like we're telling you to come. Just shoot the cannon to cover us. Zoro tells him, and he seems to calm down. Really? I get to stay on the ship? Great, leave it to me. And just in case we have to get away, I'll be ready to do that too. Usopp assures them, which I have no doubt, and I look down to see API's still hasn't moved back inside. Hey API's, what's wrong? I ask her as she stares up. A wind is coming. API's states with certainty, a big wind. Zoro, face the sails south. Usopp, Sanji-kun, turn us hard to starboard, now. Nami instructs them, and they seem a little hesitant. Oh okay, Usopp agrees with Sanji, and they walk back into the cabin to the helm. What's up? Luffy asks our navigator. A squall is coming. Nami answers, we'll catch it, and get away. There's no way we could take them head on with what we have. We'd be fine, Luffy pouts wanting to fight, and the wind comes out of nowhere and catches in the sails just in time, and we speed off, but then I look around and feel it tingling in the back of my neck. That can't be good. Hey, we're going pretty fast, this wind's fun. Check it out, Luffy, we're losing the Marines, haha. Just try and catch us now, Usopp cheers, but I still have that terrible feeling, and I pick API's up into my arms, holding her so she leans on my hip, and she hugs my neck. I walk over to Zoro as he looks around. Those Marines can't follow us now, another victory for the great Captain Usopp. Awesome, cool, that's my navigator, Luffy cheers. Nami-san is so wonderful, she can even predict the winds. Sanji swoons at her, and I shake my head. Seeing Zoro look up, I follow and see all the seagulls staying in the crow's nest, a bad sign. Well, I just had a feeling. She replies, ah, Nami-san is splendid when she's humble. Sanji swoons some more. So let's get going to Warship Island, Luffy exclaims glee. You mean it? API's cheers in my ear, making me cringe, and she whispers an apology, but I smile at her, glad she's happy. Of course, I mean it, Luffy tells her. Alright, to Warship Island, Usopp cheers. Go! They both shout though API's whispers. What's wrong, Zoro? Dakota? Nami asks us from next to me. You been looking real serious for a while now? Nah, it's just something weird, Zoro comments, still looking up. What? She asks. It seems like the ship hasn't moved for a long time, Zoro says, and everything clicks into place. Come to think of it, there isn't any wind in the sails at all, Nami says, and it dawns on her, too, as she shrieks, causing everyone to look at her. What's up, Nami? Luffy asks our panicking navigator. Nami-san? Sanji asks, looking confused. Oh no, Nami mutters. Yep, I pop the P, and she lets out another shriek of panic, gaining everyone's attention. They all look up at her. We've entered the calm belt. Charm belt? Usopp asks, getting the name wrong. What the heck is that? Luffy asks. Calm belt. A region of calm water. Nami snaps at him, not remaining calm. Nami's superhuman strength? He exclaims in glee, not getting it at all. Idiot! Nami yells at him, and the ship shakes slightly. I pull API's closer to me. An earthquake? He asks, completely oblivious. Earthquake? On the ocean? Sanji questions, looking at our captain in disbelief. You guys, stop talking like we're fine. Hurry. Take in the sails and start rowing, get us back to where we were. Nami instructs them with urgency. Right away, Nami-san. Sanji immediately agrees. What are you so worked up for? Why do we need to row? This is a sailing ship, Zoro says, and I look behind me as he stands there, utterly oblivious to our situation. Yeah, he's right. Why would we go back there when we just ran away from the Marines? Usopp asks, and I lose it. Would you just listen to us? We're in real deep trouble here, I snap at the boys. But the sea's so quiet, Luffy points out, and Usopp nods in agreement. Fine, I'll explain it to you. Listen. We took the ship out of there in a hurry, and we ended up a lot farther south of where we're going. I try to explain without worrying API's about the danger of this place. So we're in the Grand Line? Luffy asks, and Usopp begins celebrating. If it was that easy to get into, everyone would go. Nami shouts at them aggressively and pulls out the map for everyone. Now look, our destination, the Grand Line, runs between two strips of ocean. Okay. Both of these regions are called the calm belt. No one knows why, but these regions never have winds or ocean currents. It's quite simply a permanently calm region. For ships that depend on wind power, it's an extremely dangerous place to travel. Luffy? Do you understand? Nami gives a long-winded explanation. Yeah, just that it's bad. Luffy answers. Yes, that's right. I'm glad you got it. I remark, and I let API's down on her feet. So when the old fart said it was dangerous, is this what he meant? Sanji wonders, but he's not far off. That's why there hasn't been any wind. Zoro finally gets it. Well, if the ship won't move, there isn't much we can do, right? Usopp asks. We'll just wait until the wind starts up again. Luffy suggests the impossible. Like I said, once you enter this region, there won't be any wind, no matter how long you wait. And that isn't all. There's another reason why this region is known to be so dangerous. This place is, Nami says, and the ship shakes again. I place my hands on API's shoulders to keep her steady. What's going on? Usopp questions as the ship continues to shake. Something's coming. API's shouts, and the water around us waves as something big comes to the surface. The ship moves up into the air, with more mounds of water shooting around us. They're here, I shout as more pop up around us. What's that? Luffy asks, and the water falls away, revealing giant sea kings of all kinds. We move up as we're on one of their snouts. Wow, they're huge, huge, he shouts, and I pull APIs towards me as the others look entirely in shock and horror at the school of sea kings. The calm belt is a sea king breeding ground. And for the big ones, too. The reason you can't cross the calm belt because of these things. I explain, remaining calm, unlike the others, as Nami hugs the mast with tears running down her face. What are we supposed to do now? Sanji asks in worry. For now, everyone, don't move. We'll be back in the water soon. And then, we're gonna roll like hell, Zoro says in a hush-like tone. You're kidding me, Usopp yells in fear, and Nami covers his mouth, stopping his screams. Idiot, Nami mutters, which seems to get the Sea King's attention. Why? Usopp mutters, and the frog Sea King hops towards us. The frog's coming, Luffy screams as it gets closer. What the? Usopp cries, and API slips from my grasp. She falls towards the open mouth of the Sea King. APIs. I shout as I hang onto the mast as the ship tilts. Look out, Luffy shouts, stretches his arm out, catching APIs before the Sea King can swallow her, and falls back into the water. APIs hangs in the air. Luffy swings her high up, and she panics. His arms stretching. Luffy, have you eaten a devil's fruit? She shouts down as Luffy's arm begins to spring back. Yup. He answers. Luffy, stretch down to the bottom again, she shouts, and he complies. She goes soaring towards the Sea King we're standing on. Oi, Luffy! Usopp shouts at him. What the hell are you doing? I demand with worry for APIs. I dunno, Luffy answers, and I move to the side to watch APIs move towards the Sea King. APIs! Nami yells out. Watch out! Usopp also yells out. Okay, now, APIs yells, and I watch her move towards the Sea King's nostril and pull out a hair from inside. What did she do? Zoro asks. Pulled out a nose hair, Luffy answers as the Sea King makes noises as it gets ready to sneeze. Wait a damn second, Usopp freaks out. If you do that, Nami Panika sneeze, Sanji yells, and APIs comes sailing towards us. She falls into Zoro's arms, who falls back a little from the force, and she lets go of the nose hair. That's a huge nose hair, Luffy exclaims, and APIs in Zoro's arms gives him a thumbs up. Alright, here we go. With that said, the Sea King sneezes loudly and violently. We go flying into the air. What? We shout as the ship bumps away from the school of Sea Kings. How can you be so carefree about this? We yell at our captain. Awesome, it feels like we're flying, Luffy cheers from the air. We really are flying, Usopp shouts as we continue to soar over the school of Sea Kings and land harshly back into the water. Looks like we're back to where we were before, Nami sighs in relief. And no sign of those marines. Zoro points out. I thought I was gonna die, Usopp whines, looking green in the face. Right on, Luffy exclaims to APIs. Thanks, she replies with a thumbs up. Alright, full sail. Our heading? Of course. Warship Island. Luffy exclaims, and I turn the helm, and the sails catch the wind, and we head off. One Piece. Warship Island arc. We sail into some fog sometime later, can't see a damn thing, Usopp comments. You can see the fog, Luffy teases him. APIs, are you sure it's around here? Sanji asks her. Dunno. She answers, and I don't blame her, she's only a kid. How can you say, dunno? Usopp asks her in annoyance. I elbow him in the stomach, and he bends over, wincing in pain. It should be somewhere nearby, Nami says, trying to be assuring. You're so great, Nami-san, Sanji swoons at her. I don't really get you, Luffy says to Sanji, but APIs moves forward over the railing. Oh, over there, APIs shouts and points to the right of us, and I try to look through the thick fog, and in the distance, a silhouette of something big comes into view. Ooh, a ship. It's huge, Luffy exclaims, getting all excited. Come on now, Sanji sighs to himself. Is there anything you won't call huge? Zoro asks him. So, should I say that it's super duper huge? Luffy asks as if that's the problem. No. Nami yells at him. That's Warship Island. It looks like a battleship, so we call it Warship Island, APIs explains gleefully. Hey, cool, Luffy exclaims as we sail into the port. I turn the helm to the side, and the ship moves on its side towards the land. Zoro pulls the anchor loose and drops it into the bay. Sanji gets Jacob's ladder and unrolls it as API's stands at the top. "Yo, I'm back," API's greets them, and they all seem happy and surprised to see her again. I pick her up, and we climb the ladder onto the ground. One Piece. Warship Island arc. Once on the ground, API's waves at the villagers and her friends. API's. They all exclaim in surprise at her reappearance. "Why did you, on a pirate ship? What's going on here?" A villager asks her as the others all climb down behind us. "Hey, you there," Luffy asks, seeming serious. What do you want?" The villager asks in fear, shielding himself from an attack. "Is there a smoked meat store on this island?" Luffy asks, and I shake my head with API's giggling to herself. Who are these guys?" The villager questions, seeming skeptical. "Well, you see, even though they're pirates, they're good pirates," API's explains. "Is there even such a thing as a good pirate?" Another villager questions. "But weren't you taken away by the Marines?" asks the one next to the other. "That's right. But I ran away. Then, Luffy and his crew saved me, right?" API's explains and circles her arms around my neck as Luffy stands beside me. "Yup." Luffy agrees. API's, "What have you done?" "I don't know why, but the Marines were looking for you. You shouldn't go back to your house. They're still around here." The villagers explain, frightening the poor girl. "Oh no," API's mutters and hides her face in the crook of my neck. I rub her back, trying to comfort her. "We'd like to help you out, but these guys are pirate," a villager explains. "Ah, what a fix," API's mumbles to herself. "But she said we're good pirates," Usopp mutters, trying to defend API's and us. API's. "Come here this instant," an old man tells her, and she seems shocked and happy about the appearance of this old man. "Who's that?" I ask her, but the others hear me. "Dunno." Luffy answers. I look at him with a frown, and API's jumps from my arms and runs towards the old man. "Grandpa Bokuden," API's greets him as she runs over to him. She attacks him in a hug around the waist. "I'm glad you're safe. I thank you for saving API's. How about it? I'd like to give you a warm welcome at my house," he asks us. "Is your house a smoked meat store?" Luffy asks. I elbow him in the back, and he yelps in pain. "It's not a smoked meat store, but Grandpa Bokuden makes the best pork buns on the island," API's boasts, and that's all Luffy needs. "Yes. Let's do it." Luffy agrees loudly. "Sure, let's go." Zoro also agrees. API's, "Please introduce your friends." Grandpa Bokuden asks her, and she pulls away, pointing at Zoro. "This is Zoro, Sanji, Usopp, Nami, and Dakota." She introduces us as she points at us, and we all give a form of greeting. "Very nice to meet you all. Let us head back to our home," he says, and API's moves to his side, and they walk through the group of villagers and us walking behind them. One Piece. Warship Island arc. We made it to the house. It's a lovely wooden cabin and a stone hut at the back, which we sat in waiting for the pork buns as Grandpa Bokuden put them in to cook. All set. Everything is prepared. Now we just have to wait, he announces. "Wow. Smells good," Luffy and Usopp exclaim in greed. "Oh, this is old-fashioned. Gramps, how long's this gonna take?" Sanji asks from over the ancient stove. Oh, yes, about 4 or 5 hours, I guess," he answers, and Luffy and Usopp yell out in surprise, but I settle them down. One Piece. Warship Island arc. Everyone sits around the cabin. I sit by the window next to Luffy as my assassination instincts are in overdrive, as something doesn't sit right with me. I'm so hungry. Luffy whines as he looks out the window at a butterfly that flutters past. "Bokuden-san, why was API's kidnapped by the Marines? Any ideas?" Nami asks him, also curious. "API's, do you have any idea?" he asks, seemingly clueless as the rest of us. "None," API's answers all too quickly, and I look at her. She does know but is unwilling to share. "But you told us there was a reason you couldn't say anything," Nami argues. "Oh, that was a lie," API's replies, and I shake my head at her antics. "Well, there is something," Bokuden adds in. "But she just said there wasn't," Usopp snaps, slamming his hands on the coffee table. There really isn't much on this island, but if there's something it does have, it's our ancient legend, Bokuden remarks. Legend? Zoro echoes in surprise. The people of this island are known as the descendants of Lost Island that sank thousands of years ago at the peak of its prosperity. Lost Island is home to dragons called Millennium Dragons. The bones of those dragons are called dragon bones, and are believed to be an elixir that grants eternal youth. Bokuden tells the tale. Interesting, Sanji comments as he puts a cigarette in his mouth. But the legend is no reason for the Marines to get involved. Yeah. Where do the Marines fit in? Usopp asks the vital question. That's something I don't get either. I join in from my seat. Shouldn't there be some sort of hint in the legend? Zoro asks, and I think back to what Bokuden had already said, an elixir that grants eternal youth. To begin, Lost Island's first king was Iskandak, Bokuden begins. There he goes, API's mutters under her breath in annoyance, obviously hearing it before. Now, Pokpo soon had 3 sons. The eldest was Bokahantasu. The second son was Bokabonbon, and the third son was Bokabokipon. Bokuden continues, and API's sneaks right past Luffy and me. We look at her, and she motions for us to stay quiet, and I listen boring detail. One day, the king told them this. Listen, you 3, go find the tree that bears stars as its fruit in the Valley of Dragons. And so, Bokahantasu and Bokabokipon bravely set off to find the valley, and then, in the 317th generation, Igrimori the third son Ugirmori became a great ruler. He went on to have 18 children. Those 18 children. Bokuden continues. It's been a long time since he started, and of course, Zoro is fast asleep along with Luffy, the two having no attention span. Nami and Usopp complain. But I keep listening, not wanting to be totally rude. As king, he implemented a great revolution. But that king sure had a lot of children. By the time his grandchildren were born, he ended up with 65. Luffy excuses himself getting up sluggishly and leaving the cabin. They said if you threw a rock into the kingdom, you'd hit one of the princes, hee. I watch as Luffy leave, moving towards the hut, but I continue to listen even though I really don't see how this is a legend. And then, in the 1111th generation, no, it was the 1121st generation, it was Hokihantasu. Thereupon, Nemenmetasu entered the civil service and began to think, how shall I protect this man? Then, Nami crawls past Usopp's back, stops as they talk about Luffy, and continues crawling out of the cabin. Before the other countries could invade, he ordered for the preparation of the kingdom to commence. I hear Nami shriek and get up from my seat by the window. I sneak outside unnoticed by the others. One Piece. Warship Island arc. I walk outside towards the hut to see Luffy standing behind a crouching Nami as they both look at the ground. I walk over to see drag marks in the dirt, indicating something heavy was being dragged. Where's it go? Nami questions and looks up. She looks right at me. I guess we follow it. I tell her, and she nods in agreement. She gets to her feet, and we walk around the hut, following the trail around the back of the cabin to the mountain area and some bushes. It just disappears? Luffy questions as we look at the mountain. What's going on? Nami wonders, and Luffy walks over to the bush, kneeling before sticking his head in. Hey, Luffy, what are you doing? I ask him. A hole. He replies, and Nami and I get onto our knees beside him and see the drag mark continues towards a dark hole in the rock face, and we crawl through the bushes towards the spot. One Piece. Warship Island arc. We crawl through the cramped, dark hole through the mountain face and out the other side to a hidden path going up the side of the mountain, and we begin to trek up the way to the top, where the drag marks jump onto the other side of a cavern. It seems it got across here somehow. Nami points out. Luffy. Okay. Gum. Suspension bridge. Luffy yells and stretches his arms out to the other side of the gap, which makes his legs stretch, and Nami and I walk over him to the other side and walk down further. One Piece. Warship Island arc. We continue through the trees, still following the drag marks on the ground. We're behind the mountain. Where's it going? I wonder aloud. Ah, what's that? Nami inquiries as in front of us is a cave, and we walk towards the cave and inside. One Piece. Warship Island arc. We walk further into the cave. The sound of API's voice grows closer. I'm trying hard to find out, but I still don't have any clues. APIs says to someone out of view. APIs? Who is she talking to? I wonder, and Luffy steps forward, waving his arm in the air. Yo, APIs. Who ya talking to? Luffy asks her loudly. Don't shout out suddenly like that. Nami scolds him, and APIs sits to her feet and backs away, arms stretching out as if trying to use herself as a barrier between us and something worth protecting. No, stay back, APIs shouts, and Luffy walks over as Nami, and I stay back when he looks in shock, gasping. Luffy, what's up? I ask as we walk forward to get a better look. I stare at the figure in front of us as Nami gasps in shock. And I can't help but stare with my mouth hanging open as in front of us is a dragon. My surprise changes into excitement at the sight of this rare creature. But Luffy decides to try climbing it, and APIs tries stopping him. Cool, this is so cool, Luffy exclaims in pure joy. Stop, please stop, APIs pleads with him, and I step forward slowly, not wanting to startle the dragon. Wait, Luffy, Nami gasps, and I walk over to Luffy, pulling him from the head of the dragon as he leans into it, and APIs tries pulling him off. It's real, it's alive, Luffy gushes. Stop it, leave him alone, APIs yells at him as I pull him off by the back of his vest. Awesome, where'd you come from? Luffy asks the dragon, and in response, it opens its eyes staring into Luffy's, and for a long moment, they stare at each other. I see, you want to go back to your home. APIs gasps in shock, stepping back, and I drop Luffy to his feet, and he crouches in front of the dragon. Grandpa Ryu says it's okay to be friends with you, Luffy. He knows you're a good person. APIs says, and I step over, placing my hand on API's shoulder. She looks over at Luffy as he smiles. Luffy, how did you understand Grandpa Ryu? Just somehow, he answers, and I shake my head in disbelief. Somehow, APIs echoes more in annoyance in his answer than anything. You can understand him too, huh? Luffy asks her. No, actually, APIs tries to say, but I know already. Could it be a devil's fruit? You have the ability of the devil's fruit, don't you? I ask her, and she nods in agreement, holding my hand still on her shoulder. Yes, I ate the Hiso no mi. After that, I could understand the heart of any animal. APIs explains her abilities. So that's why back then you knew that strong wind was coming, Nami points out. Yep, the seagulls told me. Meeting Grandpa Ryu was also thanks to the Hiso no mi, APIs says, and she begins explaining how she met the ancient dragon one day on the island. Grandpa Ryu had lost all of his strength and had gotten separated from his friends. He was searching all alone for the location of the dragon's nest, Lost Island. Lost Island? The island that sank thousands of years ago? Nami asks, still keeping her distance. Grandpa Ryu says the island is going to rise again. It should be about time, he says, but he doesn't remember the location anymore. He's lost all his strength and the ability to fly, but he keeps saying, I want to go home. I want to do something to help, but I have no idea where the island is. That old legend didn't have any clues, so I accidentally asked some marines passing by the island. But that was a mistake. They were looking for the Dragonite. APIs explain some more. Dragonite? The ones that grants eternal youth? They kidnapped you because they were after those, APIs? I ask her. Yes, they told me that I had to tell them everything and kidnapped me. Probably because I was wearing the claw pendant Grandpa Ryu gave me, she replies. So that's why you were out in the storm. You're pushing yourself too far, I scold her, and she nods her head, agreeing with me. I know, that's why I'm keeping it a secret from the villagers and Bokuden-san. I can't burden them with this. But I want to get Grandpa Ryu back to his birthplace no matter what. Grandpa Ryu. You always say that, right? If you return to the dragon's nest, you'll surely regain your strength. No matter how long it takes, I'll find it for you. Absolutely. No matter what happens. I'll find it for you. APIs says with so much emotion. I crouch down and circle my arms around her neck in a hug, feeling her strong emotions. Yosh, then I'll take you there, Luffy announces with no hesitation. Luffy, were you listening? She said Lost Island sunk into the sea? Nami snaps at him. But the legendary Millennium Dragon said so. This Lost Island has to be somewhere, Luffy argues lightly. An island that isn't on any map? Nami questions him. Yeah, that's why we're going. Luffy announces with complete optimism. To an island that isn't on any so. Let's do it. Nami changes her tune, snapping her fingers with a grin. Yosh, Dakota coming? Luffy asks, and I look at APIs and Grandpa Ryu. Of course. I agree. Really? You really mean it? APIs asks, turning around in my arms. Yeah, Luffy confirms, and APIs hugs me back. Thank you, she exclaims in pure happiness. Now that that's decided, have some more, Luffy says, picking up a pork bun from the ground and holding it to Grandpa Ryu. Ah, Luffy, I forgot to tell you before, but APIs tries to warm him, but Grandpa Ryu opens his mouth before she can, taking half of Luffy into his mouth, leaving just his legs kicking about. Grandpa Ryu's a little bit senile. Nami stands in shock, but I can't help but laugh as I watch my baby brother try to wiggle out of the Millennium Dragon's mouth, Dakota's paw. Nami stands in shock, but I can't help but laugh as I watch my baby brother try to wiggle out of the Millennium Dragon's mouth. I pull Luffy free from Grandpa Ryu's mouth, now covered in slime. We need to head back to the others. I point out, and the others agree, we'll be back soon, Grandpa Ryu. I whisper, taking API's hand in mine, leading us to the mouth of the cave. Stay here with Grandpa Ryu. Okay, APIs? I ask her, and she nods her head. I will be careful, Dakota, she says, and I nod before joining Luffy and Nami as we walk down the mountain the way we came. One Piece. Warship Island arc. Once back at the cabin, Bokuden is still reciting the lengthy legend in his sleep, and everyone else is snoozing around. Hey, guys. You gotta see this. What happened? Luffy exclaims as he jumps into the room and walks over to Usopp, snoring on the coffee table. Incredible. He's still talking. Nami complains, with her arms folded over her chest. I shake my head also in disbelief at the old man. Oi, you gotta hear this, Luffy says and pops Usopp's snot bubble, startling the sniper awake with a yell. Okay, I'm up. He yells to wake Zoro up, and I walk over to him, sitting in his lap as he wakes up. What? Morning already? Dakota, Zoro says and does a double take as he notices me on his lap, and I lie back over his lap as he stretches. Morning, I greet him. He looks down at me with a blush. I push my legs up into the air and roll back onto my knees next to Zoro, who seems even more flustered, and I look around the room to see Sanji with blood leaking from his nose, Usopp with a blush, and even Nami, though Luffy isn't looking my way. What? I ask, trying to figure out what the problem is. You just flashed us, Nami scolds me, and I shrug my shoulders with a giggle. Hope you enjoyed the show. I laugh, getting to my feet when the door swings open, revealing a very flustered villager breathing heavily in the doorway. Be big trouble, he yells as he steps inside. Bokuden-san, where's APIs? What's wrong? I ask him, getting to my feet. You're a pirate, right? There's a marine fleet anchoring in the bay right now. He informs us and it's not good for us. They couldn't be, still, after APIs? Nami wonders, and we all know it's the only option for the Marines to return to the island. What is with this kid? Usopp complains. Hey, everyone come with me. Nami orders us, and Sanji jumps to his feet quickly. Yes, Nami-san. Sanji swoons for her. Why? Luffy asks. Just come on, Nami snaps at him. What about Gramps over there? Zoro asks, gesturing over to the snoozing elder. We'll let him rest here for now. Hey, if Bokuden-san wakes up, tell him this. We're going to protect APIs. I tell him as I walk over to Nami. Oh okay. He agrees, and we leave out the back of the cabin. One Piece. Warship Island arc. We all stand in the cave with Grandpa Ryu still lying down on the bed of straw with APIs on his back, and everyone stands in awe at the Millennium Dragon in front of us, and she comes into view. Hey, everyone, she greets us with a smile. Just like Grandpa Bokuden said, the legendary Millennium Dragon, Nami states to the others. Yeah, isn't it cool? Luffy beams next to her. It's not like he's yours. Nami scolds him disapprovingly. So when you get closer to the Grand Line, you see things like this? Zoro wonders, and he's not wrong. Wait until we arrive. Well, we saw those Sea Kings before, but this isn't one of those, Sanji replies as they look at Grandpa Ryu. Scared, Zoro? I tease him. He snaps his head, looking right at me with a glare. Come on, take a joke. Swordsman. I tease him some more. Are you sure it's tame? Usopp asks fearfully when Grandpa Ryu moves his head towards him, bending his nose slightly before licking his face as if tasting him. Oh, sometimes he gets a bit senile. If he thinks you're food, he'll try to eat you, APIs warns him. But still, Grandpa Ryu bites down on Usopp's head, trapping him. Too late, Usopp cries in fear of being eaten by the dragon. It doesn't hurt at all, right? Luffy laughs at our friend's misfortune. You look like a trout. Are you just going to stand there? Get me out? Usopp yells, trying to pry himself free of the dragon's grip. Let's just let him eat him, Zoro says, and I stand next to him, but he's refusing to look at him for my earlier teasing. Zoro. Usopp cries, and Luffy laughs while watching our friend struggle. You better not, he'll give you food poisoning, Sanji taunts him. Shut up, love cook. He snaps at him, having enough. I walk over to Grandpa Ryu and pet him on the head. He releases the terrified Usopp, who runs away, hiding behind a rock. That's better. You don't want to eat him, he'll make you ill. I yelled to Grandpa Ryu. And I know the others heard me as Luffy lets out a laugh and a yell of protest from the cowering Usopp. APIs jumps down from Grandpa Ryu's back towards me. And I catch her before settling her down on the ground, and she stands on the other side of his head looking solemn. And everyone else but Nami and I sit down around the cave. What the Marines want is this Millennium Dragon. The truth is, after thinking it over, is that we've decided to take the Millennium Dragon back to Lost Island. Nami explains to the boys. Why, you can't be serious. The Marines are closing in. It was hard enough getting away just by ourselves, but with something that big, Usopp begins to protest in his usual fear-stricken way. Grandpa Ryu really wants to go home. So, APIs exclaims, silencing him for a moment. And I bet Luffy said, sure, I'll take you back home, or made some other stupid promises, Usopp remarks, making a funny voice. Yeah, I promised we'd taken him there. Luffy answers with a goofy grin. Usopp stands up with a long groan. But we don't have any idea where that island is. How are we supposed to get there? Usopp asks in almost outrage. Things'll work out, Luffy replies. No, they won't. He cries out, trying to reason with our captain. I think if Grandpa Ryu returns to his birthplace, he'll get better, APIs explains as he strokes his snout lovingly. Animals have instincts. This Millennium Dragon may be able to tell us something. I tell the others. Yeah, let's find this lost island, Luffy says. But how? Usopp begins to ask. Well, it'll work out somehow. Zoro comments from his seat by Sanji, who lights his cigarette. Zoro. He groans at our first mate. But what should we do with him? Just taking him down the mountain alone will attract attention, Sanji points out, and Nami smirks in response. First, we'll need a cart. One big enough for Grandpa Ryu to ride on, Nami says, and Usopp lets out another groan, slapping a hand to his forehead as he looks up. Let's do it, APIs exclaims happily, jumping over to me. I pick her up into my arms as she circles her arms around my neck. One Piece. Warship Island arc once outside the cave on the side with the number of trees. I set APIs down on the ground by Usopp and Nami. Sanji, Luffy, Dakota and Zoro. You four will cut down as many trees as possible. Nami instructs us, and we nod before walking off in different directions. Akuma no human demon form. Weapon of Alistair. Axe, I say, and in my right hand, a long staff with a dark gray axe head morphs. I place my left hand below my right and swing violently, 100 executions. I shout as a giant air force sweeps through the forest, cutting into the trees before me. They all fall to the ground. I bring my pile of wood with the others, and I lie on top of the collection between Luffy and Zoro's. This enough? Luffy asks as if it wasn't obvious. Okay. Nami agrees with a gesture, though Usopp and APIs look in shock. Guess I've got no choice but to help now. You conniving girl. Usopp complains, looking over at Nami with a sour look. One Piece. Warship Island arc. We finally get the cart almost finished, though Luffy keeps wasting time, with Usopp doing most of the work, in wheel. That should do it, Usopp announces. Wiping away some sweat from his forehead, APIs and Luffy climb up on the chart and just around. This should be perfect for Grandpa Ryu to ride on, APIs cheers, seeming happier than ever. For sure. Luffy agrees with a laugh. But the Marines are still anchored in the harbor. What about our ship? Sanji asks a good question. Something will happen, Luffy replies. No, it won't, Sanji points out. We can fight them, Zoro suggests. That suits me just fine. Sanji agrees with him for once. No, we can't. It'll put Grandpa Ryu in danger. Let Dakota think about how to transport him. Nami says, and they all look over at me as I stand at the front of the cart. But, of course, the Going Merry is still anchored in the harbor. I ponder and go quiet as I think of our escape from the Marines and off this island. Yosh, that's the precious ship we got from Kaya. I'll go get it, Usopp declares, seeming almost brave. That's so cool, APIs exclaims. However, Usopp cuts in his fake bravery, exposing the coward behind it. Zoro comes too. Why me? Zoro asks him, confused, but he is more the muscles of the crew. Then, I'll leave it to you. Nami agrees with the knee protest. Now that's settled, how about we wait until nightfall? Usopp suggests, and I look over the side of the cliff, and an idea strikes me. No, Luffy protests, and I clear my throat, gaining everyone's attention. Bring the ship around to that cape that looks like Usopp's nose, I tell them, pointing to it, and everyone walks over, joining me. Luffy laughs as he crouches down, getting a better look. Hey, you're right. It's Usopp's nose, Luffy agrees with a grin. But what will you do? If we only bring the ship, Usopp points out. Don't worry, I tell him, I don't think they'll be able to find us here right away. Just be sure to hurry. Oh, so now we have to hurry, Usopp begins complaining. Sanji-kun and Luffy, get Grandpa Ryu on the cart, Nami orders the boys. Okay, right away, Nami-san, Sanji and Luffy reply, and they walk into the cave, and Usopp and Zoro walk off. I jog over, stopping Zoro by placing my hand on his shoulder, and he turns around. Be careful. The Marines will be searching the whole island for us. I want him, and he nods. Good luck. He walks off with Usopp back down the mountain, and I walk over to the cave. One Piece. Warship Island arc inside the cave. I see Luffy and Sanji trying to move Grandpa Ryu but keep failing. I giggle at their attempts, and they stop, looking over as I stand there. Telekinesis, I mutter, and my eyes turn entirely white as I hold out my hand towards Grandpa Ryu. He gently lifts off the ground and hovers in the air, and I slowly move him and myself towards the exit. One Piece. Warship Island arc outside. I gently place Grandpa Ryu onto the cart. APIs looks in shock, and Nami keeps an eye out for the ship. There they are. She announces when a seagull perches on Grandpa Ryu's head, cawing at APIs, who turns around in shock at whatever it's telling her. Oh, no. The Marines are coming up the mountain. APIs panics, clutching her head, and I pull her into my arms, trying to calm her down. I move over to the side to see the Marines approaching. Ah, they're earlier than we expected, Nami complains, growing worried. But what are we going to do? APIs asks her urgently. Relax, alright. We still have these three. Nami soothes her. When the Going Merry gets in front of the Usopp nose cape, we'll move out. I tell her, and the Marines come right into view. And this is when Grandpa Ryu decides to move his head and exhale from his nose, freaking out the Marines. I hear the Marines' footsteps come closer, trying to be sneaky as they hide and ready their rifles, but I hear the click, and so does APIs as she jumps in front of Grandpa Ryu. No, leave Grandpa Ryu alone, APIs shouts as she tries shielding him. APIs. Nami and I also shout out to her as a warning when Grandpa Ryu moves his wing to shield her. Grandpa Ryu, she exclaims, and he raises his head high, frightening the Marines, and I pull APIs behind me as I look down, seeing someone I recognize from M passed behind the Marines' superior. Fire. The Marines' superior orders, and they ready all their guns with no hesitation. No, APIs screams as she jumps out of my arms to shield Grandpa Ryu. But I pull her back behind Grandpa Ryu's wings and shield her with my body as they open fire, and Luffy jumps in front, taking the bullets. No good. Luffy shouts as he expels all the bullets. They fling everywhere, frightening the Marine soldiers. How did the bullets, the Marine soldiers freak out. So you have an ability of the Devil's Fruit, Eric states. You got it. I'm a rubber man. Luffy replies with no hesitation. Rubber, man? D-Devil's fruit? What's he talking about? The Marines question in fear. Swo. The captain begins, but Eric cuts him off. Use your swords. Guns won't affect rubber. With that said, the Marines unsheath their swords and run towards Luffy. Sanji-kun. Nami shouts out and moves towards APIs and me. She takes my place as I stand. Yes, Nami-san. Sanji yells as he runs over to the approaching Marines and kicks them down. Gum gum Gatling. Luffy yells as he punches the other Marines, knocking them to the ground. Akuma Akuma no human demon form. Instruments of death, I shout, and 2 gloves form on my hands. Gold with long claws at the end. I rush towards the remaining Marines and cut them down, but not enough to kill them instantly. They go down too smoothly, and I stand next to Luffy as a Marine soldier looks up at us in fear and lets out a shriek. So much for the Marines. If you want something done right, Eric mumbles under his breath as he walks towards us slowly when a Marine soldier stumbles to their feet and walks towards Eric, who uses his Devil's Fruit ability to slice the Marine. What's that? Luffy questions as we watch. A knife, Sanji wonders, and I shake my head. Not quite, I answer as Eric stops, still far from us. My name is Eric the Whirlwind, a mercenary under the employ of Nelson Royale. I have no interest in you lowlife pirates. My only concern is that Millennium Dragon behind you. If you oppose me, you will taste the power of the Kama fruit from Eric the Whirlwind side. Eric introduces himself to the others. I already know him all too well. What's he mean by Kama? Sanji wonders. You see, I too have the abilities of a Devil's Fruit. Eric continues talking. Okama. Luffy mishears. Now what? Sanji asks. Nami. Luffy calls out to her as he turns towards her. Aren't you ready yet? Almost, Nami replies. Being able to see the ocean from so far away, Nami-san is so wonderful. Sanji swoons at her. Well, just hurry up, Luffy complains. Oi, you riffraff, are you listening to me? Eric yells in anger. It's Eric the Okama, right? I heard you. Luffy replies, which anger Eric more. No, not the Kama. In Okama, the Kama, as in Whirlwind Scythe, Eric shouts. Well, I don't care either way. Just kidding, Luffy laughs, antagonizing Eric. You will regret angering me. Kama no. Eric begins and blows into his middle and forefinger, Whirlwind. He slashes both his arms in front of him, and slashes of air fly towards us, cutting into us and the ground behind us, but it loses its force as the wind travels towards the others. What the? Luffy clutches at his offending arm. I got it. He means Whirlwind Scythe, Sanji replies, holding his bloody forearm. The wind I create is as sharp as a blade. Tearing a person limb from limb is child's play. Wouldn't you agree, LaRue? Eric asks in a taunting tone. Are they there yet? APIs asks, and I hear the fear in her voice. No, not yet. Nami answers, and I narrow my eyes at Eric. Now, step aside. He orders, but I stand my ground. Hand over the Millennium Dragon. Like hell. I snap at him, feeling my blood dripping down onto the G. My Kama no Whirlwind. Want another? Eric teases us as he lifts his hand. Can we go now, Nami-san? APIs asks her. Yes, they're set? We're leaving, Sanji-kun, Luffy, Dakota. Nami shouts down at us. Yes, Nami Swan, Sanji shouts back, and we run back up the side to the cart. We'll be right there. Luffy and I jump onto the cart as Sanji goes to the back, ready to push off. Nami-san, my catapult of love. He kicks into the side of the mountain. The force kicks us off to the bottom, and we roll down towards Eric. You won't escape, he shouts. Gum gum pistol, Luffy shouts as he strings his arms out behind him. Kama no Whirlwind. Eric shouts as he slashes his arms out in front of him, which deflects Luffy's arms enough for Eric to jump out of the way of the cart as we continue to speed down the side of the mountain. There's a boulder in the way, APIs shouts in worry as it approaches. Luffy, Nami shouts up to him as he sits on Grandpa Ryu. Gum gum Gatling. He shouts as he punches the boulder, breaking it up in time. As we barrel through, large debris comes crashing down, and I swat it away from APIs and me as I cover her with my body, and Grandpa Ryu helps. This is nuts, APIs shouts, and Luffy and I laugh. That's just the way it goes, Luffy laughs, but his head gets caught on a branch. His neck stretches out, and his body is about to go with it, but Grandpa Ryu grabs him. Moron! I shout as Grandpa Ryu pulls him back, and his head dislodges from the branch. He flies back onto Grandpa Ryu, a little dizzy. Thanks for that, Luffy mumbles, and we continue to roll down the side of the mountain, and APIs starts giggling and laughing. Yahoo! She cheers as we jump into the air slightly as we roll down the side of the mountain. I join in as we jolt around and get to the cape over the marine ship. Go! Luffy cheers as we soar towards the ship's mast and hit it right into it. The force knocks it over hard. We fly around into the water with a few jolts before settling in. So, result, right? APIs yells with a thumbs up. She's right. Luffy laughs from atop Ryuji. Pursue that ship. I hear one of the marines shout from the wreck of a ship, and Zoro and Usopp move the vessel towards us. Usopp throws a couple of ropes towards us, and I catch one pulling on it as Usopp comes down and Luffy, Sanji, and Nami go up, and Usopp ties them around the logs. That should do it. Usopp calls up. That was fun, Luffy comments. So much fun, APIs agrees. APIs? You alright? Nami asks her from the ship, and APIs hums in agreement, nodding her head. All set. Luffy, we can leave any time. Yosh, to Lost Island. Forward. Luffy exclaims. And which way's that? Usopp asks him. Over there? Luffy wonders, pointing over in different directions. Maybe over there? Are we really going to be okay? Usopp asks me as he looks over at me. Guess we just have to pick a direction and try it, I reply. It's not on any map. Nami agrees. The keen Nami-san is so wonderful, Sanji swoons. Why me? Usopp mumbles and I grab APIs into my arms and jump onto the ropes and balance running up the rope to the ship. I jump onto the railing by Zoro, frightening him as I place APIs on the deck as we set sail. We're headed to Lost Island. Luffy cheers as we sail off. One Piece. Warship Island arc. It's been an hour or so since we set sail. I sit on the rear railing looking over Grandpa Ryu and Luffy. Lost Island? Huh? Judging from the maps, there doesn't seem to be any other islands within the vicinity of Warship Island. Nami points out from her seat. Oi, Grandpa Dragon, where are we supposed to go? Usopp asks Grandpa Ryu, and Luffy bends over to look into Grandpa Ryu's eyes, which look almost dead with no emotion inside them. Hey, he greets him, but Grandpa Ryu closes his eyes, turning his head slightly from him. Looks like he's dozed off again. I look back at the others with a sigh. Sorry to keep you waiting, guys, lunch is ready. APIs yells out as she walks up the stairs. More of her cooking? Zoro mutters in fear of her food. I wasn't waiting for this, Usopp also mutters, and I smack them on the side of the head. They yell out in pain, looking back at me as I turn away, trying to look innocent in my new clothes. Easier to fight with my ripped black jeans and striped black and white slightly loose jumper. I pull my hair into a ponytail using a piece of cloth as APIs walks over to the railing with a pot of food, I guess, for Grandpa Ryu. Still, Usopp seems to get the wrong idea, causing APIs to stomp on his foot, and I take the boiling pot from her as she sets it on the railing with some difficulty. Grandpa Ryu. Eat up. APIs calls down to him. Ah, food? Luffy exclaims as he stretches his arms out to the pot and completely misses that APIs is wearing oven gloves and takes it before noticing halfway. Hot, he cries out, dropping the bowl and spilling the contents. Arg! You dumbass! Sanji yells at Luffy as he's broken one of his rules on this ship. The pot lands on Grandpa Ryu's head. The heat wakes from his nap, and his eyes almost pop out of their sockets. APIs jumps onto the railing. Grandpa Ryu. She calls out to him before gripping the ropes and sliding down towards the cart without a second thought. Grandpa Ryu. She panics, runs over to the Millennium Dragon, and clears the food off his head while he seems to be spacing out, his eyes almost alive. Grandpa Ryu. Are you alright? She asks him when his eyes seem to dim as he looks over at her. Good grief, you wasted the food I made, especially for him, Sanji complains. You can just make more, right? Usopp asks him as if it were obvious. What have I told you about wasting food? Sanji questions him, getting annoyed with the long nose. What's up? Luffy asks APIs as he picks up the boiling pot with his sandals covering his hands. Lost Island, the Dragon's Nest, is east of Warship Island. APIs answers, seeming a little shocked, but Luffy grins at her happily. So that's where Lost Island is, Luffy exclaims as he leans over to her happily. Grandpa Ryu remembered. APIs joins in exclaiming, and they both have massive grins as they cheer. We've got it, Luffy yells up at us, gaining the others' attention. Lost Island is east of Warship Island. Grandpa Ryu just said so, she yells up also. Just like that, he cheers. Usopp, come help me. Nami orders him. Sure, Usopp agrees, and they run off together, running down the steps. Yash set course for Lost Island. Full sail, Luffy shouts, ordering this with a big-ass grin on his face. Moron, you better eat all of this, Sanji warns him with a hint of a threat. Sure, don't worry, he assures him, but I doubt that Luffy won't eat everything is just stupid. I get up from the railing and walk down the stairs to the kitchen. One Piece. Warship Island arc inside with everyone. We start eating lunch. I dig in and slap Luffy's hand away from my food as I sit with APIs on my right and Zoro on my left. Luffy, knock it off. I scold him as I slap his hand away again. Full stomachs and everyone delighted with Sanji's cooking like always. It's mine, Zoro and Sanji's turn to do the dishes. As of now, Luffy is banned from doing anything besides eating in the kitchen after breaking some plates last time. Sanji does the washing while Zoro dries them, and I put them away. Here, Zoro. Sanji keeps saying as he hands over the wet plate, and Zoro wipes them before stacking them on the side for me to put away. You don't have to keep saying that, you know, Zoro tells him, and I take the plates from the side and put them in the top cabinet, and I sigh as we finish. I look out the window to see APIs standing at the rear railing looking over Grandpa Ryu. One Piece. Warship Island arc. I walk outside to the rear railing with APIs and sit watching over Grandpa Ryu with APIs. I take her onto my lap as we watch over the Millennium Dragon. Hey, Grandpa Ryu. Not long now, soon we'll be at Lost Island. It's there, right? If you go to the Dragon's Nest, you'll get better, right? Huh? That's silly. Saying thanks already? We're not even there yet? APIs says, and something Grandpa Ryu says to her seems to put her in a bad mood. Oh, come on, I do not think you're a bother, what's with you? Hey, Grandpa Ryu. Are you listening? It's not fair for you to keep quiet. Say something. APIs starts shouting, thrashing around in my arms, so I don't drop her into the ocean or myself when I hear Nami and Usopp let out a shriek of fear. I turn around to see a mirage of our ship, and we sail right through. I put APIs down on the deck, and we walk over with Sanji and Zoro as we look through the thick fog surrounding us when it fades out, and storm clouds roll in with rain pouring down. What is wrong with this ocean? Nami shouts, and I look up at her with a knowing smirk. You haven't seen anything yet, I mutter under my breath, and I feel the ship tilt violently and hold onto APIs to keep her steady, but Zoro and Sanji get knocked off of their feet and come crashing into us. APIs and I get sandwiched between them. Bastard, watch what you're doing, Zoro cusses Sanji. I don't exactly like it either, shithead, Sanji cusses right back. Sanji-kun. Zoro. I'll take in the sails. Unfasten the ropes, Nami orders from the crow's nest. Yes, Nami-san. Sanji replies all too happily. You have to get below deck, I tell APIs as I hold onto her arm, keeping her steady. No way. I have to be with Grandpa Ryu. APIs argues, pulls herself from my grip, and tries to run, but the ship gets knocked side to side with the storm raging around us. Idiot. Just being with him won't help at all, Zoro scolds her. Grandpa Ryu is just sitting there, helpless. I have to get to him. APIs yells over the crashing waves and slips on the soaked deck onto the opposite railing. Would you just listen to us? I scold her and take her into my arms before placing her under my arm, taking some rope from the side and tying it around her waist, and walk over to the rear railing where APIs spends most of her time looking over Grandpa Ryu and tying it around the bar before I walk away back to the helm steering us through the storm. Inside the cabin, with the door open, I hear everything, but I try to focus on keeping the ship upright as we sail through the storm when I catch APIs crying out. I look outside the window at Zoro and APIs as they hold onto the ropes keeping Grandpa Ryu's cart to the ship. One Piece. Warship Island arc. I race outside to the rear of the ship to APIs and Zoro. I grab a hold of the ropes behind Zoro as we struggle a little with it from the rocky waves coming from the storm. Didn't we promise to find the dragon's nest together? APIs shouts to Grandpa Ryu over the strong winds when Luffy jumps up behind us onto the mast and wraps his body around it before stretching his arm out. Gum Gum Lasso. Luffy shouts as he ties his arm around one of the cart's front wheels and pulls as the three of us do the same. Luffy, APIs whispers, watching my brother struggle a little. I'm fine. Leave it to me. I promised to take you to the dragon's nest, didn't I? Luffy replies with confidence. Right. APIs exclaims, and we sail through the storm to the center where a column of light with the island dead center. One Piece. Warship Island arc. Inside the eye of the storm, it's very calm, and the island looks like no one has lived there for centuries. So that storm surrounds the whole island. Huh? Almost like it's to prevent people from entering. Until now, no one has ever been able to find this place. Must have been because of that storm. I remark as we slowly sail towards the island. Ya know what? Instead of an island, it looks like a castle sitting on the sea. Luffy comments, and I have to agree as we anchor off the island's coast and climb down to Grandpa Ryu's cart and paddle to the island. One Piece. Warship Island arc. I look up at the island as we walk on. The sky around the island is clear. Still, the surrounding atmosphere is all dark rainstorm clouds. I look around at the structure, seeing the island sinking back into the ocean as the stone steps are half underwater, along with statues of dragons and other things. Hey, look at that! Usopp calls out as he points into the water at one of the icons poking out. Doesn't that look like the shape of a dragon? This must really be the island of the Millennium Dragons. Those dragons were pretty slick, Luffy remarks. Idiot, obviously, humans built these buildings. Sanji corrects him. Well, whoever built it. Zoro cuts in. We're here, Lost Island, Luffy cheers. In any case, I wonder how long it's been since anyone lived here. Looks like the jungle took over long ago. Sanji comments, and I have to agree with him on that. Oh yeah, where do you suppose the dragon's nest is? Nami wonders. Hey, Grandpa Ryu. Come on, Grandpa Ryu. Really, we're at the island where the dragon's nest is? Come on, get up. Hey, APIs goads Grandpa Ryu from his nap as he opens his eyes slowly before closing them again. What did he say? I ask her as Luffy walks up next to me. He doesn't know. Maybe this isn't Lost Island. She answers, and I have a hunch she's right, but I can't put my finger on it just yet. What? Zoro questions with slight disappointment. You gotta be kidding, Sanji sputters out in disbelief. We had to go through that huge storm to get here, Usopp complains, and I narrow my eyes at him. APIs. Luffy calls out, and I look over at him as he stands facing away from the rest of us and pointing up at the summit. Take a look at the summit. If we climb up there, we'll be able to see the whole island. He's right. We won't gain anything by sitting here thinking. Want to take a look? Nami asks her. Yeah, APIs agrees. Yosh, set off, Luffy chimes in, and Nami sends me a wink and turns around to face the boys. But Luffy and Sanji get a lovesick look in his eyes. Would you boys mind pushing the cart? Nami asks them using the sultry voice I helped perfect, and well, it only works on the lovesick fool, and she snaps. Just do it. She snaps at the other three, and they move to push and pull the cart. One Piece. Warship Island arc. We walk up the side of the mountain while I carry APIs on my back with Nami next to us and the boys pushing and pulling the cart, Zoro and Luffy pulling, and Sanji and Usopp pushing, and some of them aren't doing it quietly. That conniving, making the men do all the work. Why doesn't she help push a little? Usopp complains rather loudly. You over there, stop chattering and push, Nami calls back at him. Quit enjoying this so much, damn it, he shouts over at her. I shall stop chattering and push, Sanji declares. Ah, the lively Nami-san is so wonderful. Would you shut up? The sniper snaps at him as we walk up some steep stairs, and at the top is what appears to be the remains of a town. A town? I wonder aloud as we all look in awe at the sight of the old, crumbling buildings. Wow. Luffy agrees as we continue through the street. Everything's run down. Looks like people really did live here. But you can only tell 'cause of the houses, Zoro comments, and he's not wrong. But why is there no one here now? Usopp asks an interesting question. Who knows, maybe they found someplace easier to live, Sanji suggests, and APIs taps me on my shoulder. I look back at her as she points to something in the grass. I stop and walk to the side of the path. Stepping into the grass, I bend down to see a spinning top with a dragon painted on it and pass it to APIs as she studies it. It's a Millennium Dragon toy. Maybe the Millennium Dragons and the kids on the islands used to play together. APIs wonders when a flock of birds circle overhead. We look up at them. Hey, are you, friends, with the Millennium Dragons too? Hey, APIs, Dakota? You're gonna get left behind. Nami calls out as one of the birds perches on API's shoulder, and I jog over to Nami. You know what? This bird just told me. There is a building with a dragon marquee mountain, she announces. You serious? Usopp exclaims, though very tired from all of the pushing. Let's hurry. It might be the dragon's nest, the girl exclaims, and I run up ahead to the back of the cart, leaving Nami behind. Nami, hurry up, Luffy calls back to her, and she runs after us to catch up. Wait up, APIs yells as she runs, stopping next to APIs and me as we walk up the rest of the mountain. Finally, up the top of the mountain, I bend my knees to let APIs jump off of my back as we stand out the doors of a building of some sort with a dragon painted on, almost fading away. Heave ho, Luffy yells, and the guys push and pull the cart over the last step. We finally made it. I can't go anymore. Usopp whines as he falls on his ass from exhaustion. Thanks for showing us the way, APIs yells after the bird as it flies away. Hey, we sure came a long way, Sanji comments as he looks out at the view, and it is beautiful. Thanks for your help, guys, she says to the boys as they walk over to us. Yeah, good work. Nami agrees. Agreed, good work. I add as we all turn around to face the door. This picture is a Millennium Dragon, huh? She wonders as we stare at the door. Yeah, looks like it. Luffy comments. Is this building the dragon's nest? Sanji inquires, and I shake my head. This place, Usopp asks, poking his head out. Hey, hold up, where's the door? How are we supposed to get inside? Zoro wonders, and I have to agree. The door's right here, Luffy points at the wall in front of us. Oh, you nitwit, we don't have a key. How are we gonna open it? Nami whines at Luffy, and APIs walks over to the wall door. Oi! Usopp calls out as he walks over. APIs, that pendant, could it be? I wonder as I look at it. Is it the key to open the dragon's nest? Sanji wonders also, and APIs tries to reach for the hole in the wall shaped like the pendant, but she's slightly too small and turns to face us with unshed tears. I can't reach. APIs sniffles and Luffy walks over before I can. You sure are small, APIs, Luffy comments as he bends over and talks to her. What was that? She snaps at him, and he takes the claw pendant. Hey, leave it to me, he tells her, and before he can put it in, the stones from under our feet collapse in. I pull APIs into my arms as we fall through the ground. One Piece. Warship Island arc. We fall through some tree roots deep into the ground, and soon I land on my back with APIs safe in my arms while the others, like myself, lie around in the dirt. I gradually lift myself and look up at the ceiling and hole we fell through. We're alive, right? Usopp wonders. Yeah, seems so. By the way, whose idea was it to use a key up there? Sanji asks, and APIs laughs nervously when Luffy returns her claw pendant. Here, ya go, Luffy says and places it in her waiting palm, and he gives her a goofy smile. I get to my feet and set her on hers. Well, doesn't matter, we're inside now, I remark as I dust off my trousers. Result right, APIs jokes as she gives us a smile and a thumbs up. But what is this place? Zoro asks, and I have to agree. And what do you think that is? Luffy asks, and we all look at the images on the ceiling fading and cracking away. What is it? APIs asks as we all stare up in a trance. We fall through some tree roots deep into the ground, and soon I land on my back with APIs safe in my arms while the others, like myself, lie around in the dirt. I gradually lift myself and look up at the ceiling and hole we fell through. We're alive, right? Usopp wonders. Yeah, seems so. By the way, whose idea was it to use a key up there? Sanji asks, and APIs laughs nervously when Luffy returns her claw pendant. Here, ya go, Luffy says and places it in her waiting palm, and he gives her a goofy smile. I get to my feet and set her on hers. Well, doesn't matter, we're inside now, I remark as I dust off my trousers. Result right. API's jokes as she gives us a smile and a thumbs up. But what is this place? Zoro asks, and I have to agree. And what do you think that is? Luffy asks, and we all look at the images on the ceiling fading and cracking away. What is it? API's asks as we all stare up in a trance. Wow, what a huge house. What's that a picture of? Luffy wonders as we stare at the ceiling with paintings of all sorts. It looks like some kind of map, Usopp responds, and I have to agree with him. Yeah, but you can't tell what it says since it's crumbling. What is this place anyways? Isn't this supposed to be the dragon's nest? Sanji questions. Dunno. What do you think, API's? Luffy asks her, and I walk over to her as she stays with Grandpa Ryu. I don't know. Grandpa Ryu says he doesn't know what this place is either. API's answers, looking at the others. Geez, the same useless geezer as always, Usopp complains, which riles up API's. What was that? She snaps at him. Well, it's true, he snaps back. And how are you being useful? The girl asks him angrily. Me? The sniper asks, pointing to himself, and I shake my head at him as he comes over, trying to intimidate API's, but she's having none of it. Hey, everyone, take a look at this. The ceiling collapsed here. Luffy calls our attention, and I look over to see the large ceiling slab with a painting of what looks like a green dragon. It's huge, API's exclaims with Usopp. Hey, watch out there, Usopp warns, and they jog over to the large slab. This place looks ready to cave in. If we don't hurry up, we'll get into danger. Let's just get out of here right now. But this could be the dragon's nest, she argues, not wanting to leave just yet. Oh, really, there's not a dragon in sight. He argues back, standing over API's, who gives him a mean glare. Wait a minute, Nami says, stopping the two from arguing, and we all look at her. What is it, Nami? I ask her, turning my head as I watch her stare at the ceiling. This might not be the Lost Island, Nami confirms. See? Usopp taunts API's, which angers her a little. Don't act like a smartass when you don't know the reason why, API's shouts at him, and I walk over to her and place my hand on her head, calming her down. How do you know that, Nami? Luffy asks his navigator. Look at the ceiling, Nami instructs us, and Luffy wordlessly tilts his head up, and I look again at the ceiling. The drawings on the ceiling? Luffy asks her. Look closely. It's a map that shows the direction of the Lost Island. The island that has a dome-shaped building on it. Nami points out, and I look closer and see what she means. That is this island. And this building is that dome, she explains her findings. It certainly does look that way, Sanji comments. Therefore, the people surrounding the island must be those who lived here long ago. Maybe they're API's ancestors or something. The navigator explains more of her theory. Our ancestors? API's mutters as she stares at the ceiling. Do you remember what Grandpa Bokuden said? Nami asks, and I see her looking at Luffy like he would know the answer. Nope. I was asleep. Luffy answers truthfully. Come on. He said that the people of Warship Island came from a different island, remember? She asks him, but he never retains information, ever. Did he? He asks and tilts his head to the side. Oh yeah, come to think of it, he was saying something like that. Then was the royal court he was talking about was located on this island? Usopp asks. Probably. We saw statues and drawings of the dragons here and there when we arrived. I think that the people on this island worshipped the Millennium Dragons as gods. Long ago, the Millennium Dragons probably flew around here. The ginger woman explains more. Really? Then the chance of the dragon's next being here is low, Usopp comments. But then where's the real one? API's asks, looking over at her. Maybe that island with a dragon drawn on it, Zoro points out. Exactly. Nami agrees, and I look at the ceiling and find the island painting. There's an island drawn ahead of the people who are worshipping, right? That's probably the real Lost Island. The dragon's nest is probably there too, but, she says, and I look closer at the painting to see it seems familiar. Wait, a second. That island's shaped like, API's realizes and looks up at me. Yeah. If you think about the way it's pictured on the map, the dragon's nest would have to be located on Warship Island. I reply, and the others look at me as I look at Nami, who nods in confirmation. Wait, you said there was no dragon's nest on Warship Island? Usopp accuses Nami and me. But that's what it says on the map. Do you think these ancestors drew things for no reason? Nami asks him. She's right, you idiots. There's no way Nami-san could be wrong. This means it's somewhere on that island. We'll know for sure once we get there. Sanji goes into Nami's corner against Usopp. But I have a feeling that it might have sunk into the sea. She concludes, and I have a theory, but I won't voice it quite yet. It's entirely possible that's what happened. That would explain why no one has been able to find it before. I voice in, and APIs rushes over to Grandpa Ryu. APIs? Usopp calls out to her as she rushes over. Grandpa Ryu. Please remember, Grandpa Ryu, where's the dragon's nest? We thought we had found it, but there's nothing here, only those drawings. Grandpa Ryu. Look at the pictures. Can you remember anything? We have nothing left to go on unless you remember. Please. Remember where it is. Grandpa Ryu. APIs cries out to him. And he looks up, and I follow his gaze to the ceiling, and at that moment, a flock of birds flies around over the picture of this island. And it seems to trigger something for the old dragon. Grandpa Ryu. Okay, I guess the dragon's nest is on Warship Island after all. Luffy says as he seems to have a bond with Grandpa Ryu. How did you know that, Luffy? She asks him as she looks over at him. Just somehow. He answers. You're right. Grandpa Ryu says he remembers now. To the east of the summit in a place that looks like a battleship. That's where the dragon's nest is, the young girl tells us. Geez, we come all the way over here and look at what happens, Usopp complains. Sorry, API says, and I look over at her and walk around, crouching on her left side, hugging her as she leans on me. I know it might have sunk into the sea long ago, and I dragged you all here searching for it. I guess it was just a waste of time. I hug her tighter and rub her back, feeling the guilt waving off of her. Come on. There's still a chance. Who knows, the dragon's nest might be in some unexpected place. But we won't know unless we go looking for it, right? Usopp asks her, trying to cheer her up. That's right, Nami agrees, and she looks up at her. It's not like you get depressed over something like this, APIs. If you're too afraid of making mistakes, you won't be able to do anything. Sanji joins in, and she looks over at the men. The roundabout way of life isn't bad, Zoro says, and I smile as I squeeze her, causing her to look up at me. We're okay with the adventure, and we'll help you and Grandpa Ryu the dragon's nest because we want to. I tell her, and she looks at all of us in surprise. Guys. APIs whispers, and I hear Luffy giggling. Let's go. His health back if we sit around here, will he? Luffy cheers with his arms outstretched, and I shake my head, seeing APIs smiling. Thank you, she says, and I feel another presence from behind us, and Zoro also feels it as he holds his favorite sword ready to strike, which Nami notices. Is something wrong, Zoro? Nami asks him. Somebody's here, I answer, and they look at me as I stand straight, keeping APIs behind me. What? Usopp asks, looking over. He's up there, Luffy says and runs over, pointing to the top of the giant hole where I see Eric standing. Many thanks for the explanation. For now, I know where the dragon's nest is. Eric smirks, feeling pleased with himself. Oh, you again? Luffy exclaims, probably forgetting who he was. But it would be a waste if it's under the sea. So I will have to take that Millennium Dragon with me. He threatens, and APIs runs from behind my legs towards Eric. No way. APIs shouts at him. We don't even know if the dragon's nest is under the ocean yet. He said something about having the ability of the no Mi. Sanji reminds the others. Man, why do we have to deal with a weirdo like him? The no Mi? He has a devil fruit ability? Usopp complains, though he doesn't seem scared yet. Luffy, Zoro calls out to our captain as he walks forward to the front of our group. Yeah? He answers and looks over at our first mate. Take Grandpa Ryu and get on the ship, Zoro says, looking at Luffy with a wicked grin. I'll come later. Gotcha. Luffy grins, agreeing with our swordsman. Oh oi, to the ship? I don't see an exit. Usopp wonders aloud. Then we'll, Luffy says and walks away over to Grandpa Ryu and APIs. Make one. He runs past us fast towards the opposite wall. No way. Nami screeches and Luffy runs with a roar to the wall and goes head first, bouncing off and landing on his back before sitting up, holding his aching head. Huh? I was sure I could break it. Luffy wonders as he stares at the wall. Oi, 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 Usopp and Sanji say at the same time, and pieces of the stone wall begin to fall, and the part to Luffy's right collapses, letting sunlight brighten up the place. Hey, it opened! He cheers as he gets to his feet, as a large cloud of dust spreads through the area. Result, alright. Result, alright, we're going APIs. He walks over to APIs and Grandpa Ryu. That guy is stronger than a caveman. Sanji gapes. You won't get away. Eric yells and jumps down to join us, holding onto a branch to slow his descent, and comes face to face with Zoro, who's waiting for him. The two strike blows, and I walk over to Luffy as he stands, looking at another chunk of the ceiling which is upside down, and he looks up at the top where it once was as if trying to figure out what it means. Luffy! You dumbass! Get out of here before it's too late, Zoro shouts as he tries to hold Eric back. Oh, sorry, Luffy says and grabs hold of the rope attached to the cart, and everyone gets on Barmy as I jog over to Zoro and quickly kiss him on the cheek, causing him to blush. Good luck, not that you'll need it. I joke and run over to the cart and hop onto the front, allowing Luffy to run, pulling the cart towards the hole. One Piece. Warship Island arc. Luffy crashes through the last remaining part of the wall to freedom, but there's no surrounding land as we fall in the open air. The others screech as we fall till we hit a large branch and skate down. Woo! This is fast. Luffy cheers as we glide along it down and side to side, and we fly off the branch and back on the stone path downhill. It's amazing how we always manage to be safe, Usopp cries from behind. We aren't safe yet, you idiot, Nami cries, and I laugh as it feels like the roller coasters on some of the future islands we'll visit. Man, this is easy. Luffy laughs as we rocket down the island's stone path towards the sea. I'm the fastest thing alive right now, Usopp sort of boasts. How is that supposed to impress anyone? Sanji shouts over the loud rumbling noise from the cart. Luffy! Do something! Nami cries out. We'll be in pieces before we can reach the ship. Okay. Okay. Luffy shrugs her off, grinning like a madman. How's that? She yells. Hey, is Zoro really going to be okay? APIs asks Luffy. Huh? Of course. Luffy answers right away with no hesitation, showing his belief in our swordsman. But that guy has a devil fruit power. He can't win, no matter how strong he is, she yells her doubt. Even then, it'll be okay. He yells at her, and I look ahead to see a path in the stone wall in front of us that is most likely blocked. Luffy, up ahead, ahead, the young girl cries out her warning. Oh, that's not good, the goofy idiot gulps. Don't just talk about it. Do something, APIs screams, but it's too late as we skate through with only a little trouble and rocket out over a small cliff back onto the stone path. Luffy! There's another dead end ahead. APIs whimpers and I jump onto Grandpa Ryu's back next to her and pull her into my lap for comfort and support like I did when my brothers used to when we were younger. We'll destroy it, Luffy shrugs it off. We can't, I snap at him. This is the same cliff we threw before. If we do, we'll fall off the edge, and we'll be done for. Nami shouts from the back, still cowering. Can't we fly over it? Luffy asks the dumbest question. We can't fly, APIs shouts at him, and as if it were fate, the cart does a hard turn dodging the cliff and continuing on the stone path heading for a wall and bouncing off, going backwards, again bouncing off the other wall and going down the other ramp. At the bottom, we hit the final barrier, spin around, and roll towards the water. One Piece. Warship Island arc. We roll towards the Going Merry slower, finally reaching the water. I think we arrived safely, Nami cries. Really, I wouldn't say that, considering the luck we've had today, Usopp says, and we come to a jarring halt, and the three on the back of the cart fly into the water, and I slide off with APIs in my arms from Grandpa Ryu's back. We're here, Luffy cheers, completely missing that the others are in the water. Get prepared, we're going. I can't take it anymore, Nami cries, and I giggle a little. Shithead. Sanji curses with a dark look at our captain. I am so going to kill him, Usopp vows from under the water. A bird perches on Grandpa Ryu in front of API's as the others get out of the water. Luffy grabs the rope for the cart and pulls, readying to connect it to the back of the ship again. Luffy, API's calls, and he stops. Zoro, they said that Zoro's in trouble. What are we going to do? We have to go and help him. I place her on the cart and go over to Luffy as he stops what he's doing and looks over in the distance. Sis, can you find Zoro? Luffy asks me, and I nod, allowing my eyes to change, and I search the island and find Zoro with Eric. Let's get on the ship first, I tell them. One Piece, Warship Island arc. We all stand on the ship, ready, and I move Luffy a little to his left and nod. Zoro, Luffy shouts through the whole island, stretches out his arm as a warning, and grabs hold of the back of Zoro's shirt. Bingo. Awesome, API's exclaims in shock, and Luffy retracts his arm. Let's go, he shouts, and Zoro comes flying towards us. I'd better not hit the ship, Zoro screams as he comes closer, and before I can move, he hits me down on my back as he flies into me, with him lying between my breasts, much to Sanji's anger and disappointment, and the others look at us. Oh, sorry. Least you didn't hit the ship. Luffy apologizes and helps his first mate to his feet, and I see the blush on his face and feel my cheeks heating up as Nami helps me with a grin plastered on her face. One of these days, I am definitely going to kill you. Zoro growls at our captain, and Nami barks orders to set sail back to Warship Island. One Piece. Warship Island arc. I steer the ship through the storm with API's at my siddet as we make it out back through the mirage wall and past the marine ship. Ooh! We're out! We're out! Luffy cheers from outside. That is such a weird feeling, Sanji comments as we sail back to Warship Island, and we make a reasonable distance from the marine ships before they begin to tail after us, and I let API's go outside with the others. Woohoo! They're trying to come after us, but they'll never catch up, Usopp cheers, looking back. Compared to that large-framed Navy battleship, the Going Merry can maneuver more quickly, but, hey, what are you going to do once we reach Warship Island? Nami asks our captain as he sits on the figurehead at the front of the ship. It's okay, Luffy replies with no care in the world. What? She yells at him. As long as we find the dragon's nest first and get Grandpa Ryu healthy again, that's enough, right? Luffy asks as he looks over his shoulder. You make it sound so easy. The island might have sunk under the ocean, right? Sanji questions, trying to reason with our captain. Then we'll just go search underwater, he says happily. You're like a hammer in the water, remember? Zoro reminds him. Regardless, we have to get out of here as soon as possible. We can't waste our time dealing with the Marines. Nami tells us, and I walk outside with the others as we discuss our next move. Nami-san, it doesn't look like that's going to be possible. Sanji points out, and we all look surprised to see the headship of Fleet 8, where the leading man resides. Awesome! Luffy exclaims, so cool, it looks like a floating gargoyle. Oi! Zoro snaps at him as he stares with his mouth agape, but not too long later, more battleships maneuver from behind the headship in 2 straight lines with over 10 ships on either side. How can they even have that many? Sanji gapes at the sight of the fleet before us, blocking our way to Warship Island. These damn Marines, how many ships do they have? He wonders, and the ships move past the main vessel and circle around us. After that, they link black metal chains around us, trapping us in the middle. What are we going to do? API's asks, and I comfortably place my hands on both her shoulders. We'll be captured. We'll board their ships, kick them off and cut their chains. It's the only way, Usopp says, seeming too smug for the usual coward. Wow, can you do something like that, Usopp? She asks him, and I can't help the laugh that escapes my lips, earning me a mean glare from him, and he points his arm out. Go! Luffy! Zoro! Sanji! Killer! He orders us with a big grin still on his face. I should have known, the adorable girl mutters under her breath, and I walk towards the ship's side. Doesn't sound like a bad idea, though, Zoro says, getting riled up. Are you serious? API's asks him. No matter how many lives you had. Nami cuts her off by placing a hand on her shoulder, causing the little girl to look up at her. It'll be okay, API's. It'll work out somehow. But get the job done quickly, okay? Nami tells us. Leave it to us, Nami-san, Sanji says, looking over his shoulder, still the lovesick cook as always. Alright, let's go. Luffy yells, pumped for the fight, and the Marines begin to fire cannonballs at us from the front, missing, causing the ship to rock side to side a little. Yoo-hoo. This feels great. Alright. Let's go. Nami enters the kitchen and begins steering us out of the oncoming cannonballs from all directions. I walk over to the boys at the front of the ship. I look behind as APIs runs out of the kitchen again towards the back. She falls over again from the rocking of the cannonballs hitting the water alongside us. Usopp, protect her, I order him as he looks at me. I point over to the fallen girl, and he looks over at her. APIs. It's dangerous out here. Get down below deck. Luffy orders her, probably wanting to do the same thing. I can't leave Grandpa Ryu out here alone. APIs replies and gets to her feet, running to the old dragon. Wait. Stop, Usopp shouts as he chases after her, and I lose sight of them when two cannons hit near the back of the side, sending the rear up from the water. We rock violently forward before settling back, causing Usopp to tumble forward into the opposite wall on his back, head on the floor, but he gets right back up through the pain, holding his head. We've been hit from behind, he cries out and runs to Sanji on the upper deck near me. Oi, Sanji. We've been hit, Sanji. Oh, we goners, we're going down. Knock it off, they missed us, Sanji tells him, and he calms down from his manic episode. Huh? Really? Usopp asks as he turns around. Yep, he answers him. We're saved. The sniper lets out a breath of relief. Who the hell made up a stupid lie like that? He asks. You did, Zoro, and I snap at him, and he seems annoyed at us for some reason. Looking good. Forward. Luffy cheers from the figurehead, and I spot an incoming cannonball we're unlikely to miss. Hey, a cannonball's coming this way. This is all I can do right now. You deal with it, Nami snaps from inside, and Luffy gets up from Mary's head and runs along the side. Alright, let's try this, he exclaims as he meets the cannonball. Gum gum balloon. Luffy inhales and expands his stomach, allowing the cannonball to bounce off him, and it goes flying towards one of the marine ships and hits the mast, cracking it in half, meaning one ship down from the nearly 30 ships surrounding us. I hear an alarm from the main battleship and see a giant cannon rolling out, targeting us. What is that? She gasps from behind as he comes outside. If we take a hit from that, we'll be blown to smithereens. We're cool. Our captain shrugs it off as he and Zoro look over at the ship's side. I'll just launch it back again. Don't be an idiot, I snap at him, slapping him harshly, and he yelps in pain. We have to change direction, I snap at him. Start moving the stern. Nami shouts at the boys. Hurry. That causes the boys to run to the back, and I look over to see Usopp over at our side cannon talking to himself and fire right into the giant barrel, and as they begin to fire, it explodes inside. Alright, Usopp, I exclaim and laugh as the others stop looking over. It was probably just a fluke, Sanji says. Yeah, probably. Zoro agrees, and that's the only thing they seem to agree on. What? I can do that anytime, just watch me, Usopp defends himself. Usopp, that was cool. APIs yells up from Grandpa Ryu's cart in awe and gives him a thumbs up that he gives back. We're fine. Don't worry. Remember, you gotta protect APIs. Luffy talks to Grandpa Ryu. Who ya talking to? Usopp asks him as he walks over. To Grandpa Ryu, he answers, and Usopp seems confused. Now's our chance. We'll attack quickly while they're distracted, cut the chains and make ourselves an escape route. Nami informs us as we stand around as she talks to us. Aye, Nami-san. Sanji agrees with no argument. Luffy. Zoro looks over at him. Leave it to me, Luffy says and stretches out his arm towards one of the battleships. Gum Gum crossing bridge. He latches onto the railing, allowing Zoro and Sanji to run along his arm to the battleship. Dakota, you coming? He asks, looking over at me. I'll do the others, I tell him, and Nami and Usopp look at me strangely, but I walk to the front of the ship. Usopp, I want you to protect APIs while we're gone. Anything happens to her, I'll come for you after I'm done with them, I warn him, and he nods, gulping. Luffy retracts towards the marine ship and slams into Zoro, alerting the Marines to their arrival, no doubt. I reach the front of the Going Merry and jump hard into the air, rocking the ship slightly from the force. Akuma Akuma no demon form. Dagon, I whisper, and a blue liquid engulfs me before I hit the water. One Piece. Warship Island Arc 3rd POV. Nami, Usopp and APIs watch Dakota hit the water in worry, knowing she'll likely sink due to being a devil fruit eater. But they see something moving underneath marine ships fast, and whatever it is jumps out onto the battleship. One Piece. Warship Island Arc on the marine battleship. The moving object jumps out of the water onto the deck, causing a small dent in the wooden floor. Marines rush out to see a tall, feminine, pale blue-scaled woman with long white hair barely hiding her fin-like ears and orange markings on her face. She stands before them as they ready their guns and swords. The aquatic demonic woman gathers the dripping water and forms it into a ball, and kicks it at the large group of Marines. "Get her!" the surviving Marines shout as they run toward her. "Yeah, right." Dakota sneers, moving more water into a ball that hits the left side and knocks them back. She moves her arms around, and water from the ocean swirls up, and she moves her arms in front of her, allowing the water to slash towards the right side of the group. Pray for survival. She snarls, rushes towards the remaining small group, and kicks one to her right, knocking him away. Spin kicks the one on her left, and he falls unconscious. Then the one on her right comes back, and she kicks him in the chest and uses force to jump in the air slightly to the Marine coming towards her, wraps her legs around his neck, and pulls him to the ground. One Piece. Warship Island Arc on the Going Merry. The others watch both ships, hear a scream from the one behind them, and spot the boys as Zoro cuts the metal alloy chain as it slides into the water below. One Piece. Warship Island Arc. Dakota huffs as she looks down at the unconscious mass of Marines and swipes her hands in and out at a sword made of water from hilt to tip, and she grips it in her hand and walks towards the chains. She swipes violently at the 3 chains and cuts through, and they fall loudly, and she jumps to the next ship with Marines waiting for her, and she lands in the middle with her sword, swiping at them, cutting them as they scream in pain. One Piece. Warship Island Arc. Dakota jumps onto the next ship, and the previous vessel sinks into the ocean. She slashes the battleship in the middle, jumping onto the next, allowing it to submerge. She continues from one ship till she makes it to the boys' battleship as Zoro readies to slice the final chain. One Piece. Warship Island Arc. Dakota's POV. I land behind Zoro and fall to my knees as I return to my human form. Zoro looks behind him to see me breathing heavily, and he crouches beside me. "Kota, you alright?" he asks me, moving a piece of fallen hair behind my ear. I feel sweat rolling down my face. I can't stay in my demon form for very long, and it uses too much energy. I huff for breath and try to stand, but my knees give out, causing me to stumble. Zoro luckily catches me, having an awkward moment as we stare into each other's eyes. We seem to be in our world as we lean in when Nami's scream cuts through us, and I turn to see our ship under attack. Zoro hikes me onto his back, and we walk to the front of the vessel to see Eric in a small rowboat with 3 Marines rowing towards the wooden cart behind our ship, and he parks by the wooden cart, talking to APIs and the others as Sanji walks to the front joining us. "What's up?" Luffy asks as he joins us at the railing. "Him again," Sanji says. "Huh? What's he doing?" he asks as we watch. "Looks like he's holding APIs hostage to steal the dragon." I snap from Zoro's back. "Hurry up and hitch the raft to the boat." I hear them shouting. "That's bad," Luffy says and gets ready to jump ship. "Stop. If you try to punch him, he'll use his attack to kill APIs and the others," Zoro reasons and places his hand on Luffy's shoulder, stopping. "I see. I got it," he says but still tries to jump ship. "Then, I'll kick him." Zoro hits him on the head. "Will you pay attention?" the swordsman snaps at him, and Eric rows away with Grandpa Ryu and APIs and seems to be speaking with the big guy on the main vessel before they open fire on them. The cannonballs hit close on the water, rocking the raft, and they row, trying to get away, but not too long after, APIs starts shouting at Eric, who turns around to face her and talks before picking her up from the back of her dress. APIs shouts at him as she dangles above Grandpa Ryu, and Eric talks back to her, and she bites down on his hand, causing him to let out a shriek of pain, and he overcomes the pain and throws her onto the boat. "Let me at him," I yell, struggling from Zoro's back as he tries to hold me back as Grandpa Ryu gets up behind Eric, scaring the 3 Marines who jump overboard. Eric shouts for the Marines, unaware of Grandpa Ryu standing behind him, and he turns around and seems blue in the face with terror, staring at the old dragon. Grandpa Ryu swipes his wing, knocking Eric far as more cannonballs fly around the unconscious APIs and ancient dragon. The Millennium Dragon spreads his wings wide and lets out a mighty sonic roar, making the ships and chains rattle. Even the water vibrates around him, and we cover our ears from the deafening roar, trying to block it out, though it is killing my ears more. Grandpa Ryu roared out. I hear Luffy say through the roar, and finally, Grandpa Ryu stops. APIs gets up, holding her back in pain for a second before noticing that the dragon is standing and hugs his face happily, giggling, saying something, and lets go as he stands up further and begins flapping his wings, trying to lift himself from the raft. That's it, keep trying, Grandpa Ryu. You can fly, Luffy exclaims in glee, and Grandpa Ryu hovers into the air with a creak from the raft, still flapping his wings. The cannons from every ship begin to fire on Grandpa Ryu, which doesn't seem to faze him as APIs shouts for him to run. Knock it off, Luffy shouts and punches the other ship's side, breaking the wooden railing and signaling the others to start attacking. With me still on his back, Zoro slashes the remaining Marines, and Sanji kicks them down, trying to stop them from attacking Grandpa Ryu. The main ship starts firing on the old dragon again, and one of the cannonballs hits the water too close to the rowboat and rocks it, causing it to fling APIs onto the raft, which angers the Millennium Dragon as he turns charging at the Gargoyle's battleship. The ship keeps firing at the old dragon, trying to stop him as he gets closer, and he lets out another sonic roar, disorienting them for a short time. They fire more, hitting Grandpa Ryu. They seem not to affect him for a time, but he lowers into the water with a mighty splash. I stop Zoro, and we all see the old Millennium Dragon floating on the water, not moving. Luffy stretches his arm to the top of the crow's nest and pings himself up into the air. Grandpa Ryu, he shouts, and I look at APIs to see her in tears as Luffy lands on Grandpa Ryu's back. Akuma no demon human form. Succubus energy convert, I say and feel horns grow out of my head, and my eyes become golden. I tap Zoro on the shoulder, and he turns his head to face me, and I kiss him right on the cheek. I feel his energy coursing through my veins as Sanji cries in protest. Thanks. I grin and jump off his back, seeing him blushing bright red, and I leap away towards the raft where APIs stands crying. One Piece. Warship Island arc. I land on the raft lightly and wrap APIs in my arms, letting her cry on my shoulder for our friend as he lies in the water. Grandpa Ryu. She screams with such heartache. I hold her tighter, trying to take the pain away. To be continued.